Close your eyes now and let me take you back to a moment that changed everything. A moment that happened somewhere between 15,000 and 40,000 years ago. A moment when two species who should have been enemies became something else entirely. This is the story of how a wolf became your best friend, how the most unlikely partnership in the history of life on Earth began, how a dangerous predator and a vulnerable human found each other in the frozen wilderness and decided, against all odds, to face the world together. It is a story of survival and trust, of mutual need becoming mutual love, of two species transforming each other in ways that neither could have imagined. And it is a story that continues today every time a dog curls up at your feet, every time a wagging tail greets you at the door, every time you look into those eyes that seem to understand you in ways that no other animal can. Before we begin this journey into the deep past, I want to let you know that if you enjoy these sleep stories, if they help you drift off while learning something profound about the world, please consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like on this video. It helps more people find these stories, and it allows me to keep creating these long journeys through history. Now, let us travel back to the Ice Age, to a world of glaciers and mammoths, of desperate survival and unexpected friendship. The world was cold then, colder than you can imagine. Massive ice sheets covered much of the northern hemisphere, grinding slowly across the land, reshaping continents, pushing life into narrow corridors of habitable territory. The humans who lived in this world were survivors, people who had learned to thrive in conditions that would kill most modern people within hours. They wore clothing made from animal skins, sewn together with bone needles and sinew thread. They built shelters from mammoth bones and hides, structures that could withstand the brutal winds that swept across the frozen steppes. They hunted the great beasts of the Ice Age, mammoths and woolly rhinoceros and giant bison, using teamwork and intelligence to bring down prey that was far larger and stronger than themselves. But they were not alone in this frozen world. Other predators shared the landscape, competing for the same prey, hunting the same herds. Lions larger than any alive today prowled the steppes. Packs of hyenas scavenged and hunted in the shadows, and wolves, the ancestors of your dog, ranged across the land in packs, their howls echoing through the long winter nights, their yellow eyes watching from the darkness beyond the firelight. Humans and wolves should have been enemies. They hunted the same animals. They competed for the same territory. They were both social predators, both dangerous, both capable of killing. In the harsh calculus of Ice Age survival, there was no room for friendship between species, no benefit to cooperation, no reason for these two hunters to do anything but avoid or attack each other. And yet something happened. Something unprecedented. Something that would change the course of both species forever. We do not know exactly when or where or how. The origins of dog domestication are still debated by scientists, the evidence fragmentary and contested. But we know that at some point, in some place, wolves and humans began to come together. Perhaps it started with wolves following human hunting parties, scavenging the remains of their kills. Perhaps it started with humans tolerating wolves near their camps, recognizing that the wolves' keen senses could warn of approaching danger. Perhaps it started with a single wolf, bolder or more curious than the others, who approached a human camp and was not driven away. However it began, it was the start of something extraordinary. Over generations, over centuries, over millennia, wolves who associated with humans began to change. They became less fearful, more tolerant of human presence. They began to read human gestures and expressions, to understand human intentions in ways that no other animal could. They began to look different too, their skulls becoming shorter, their teeth becoming smaller, their coats taking on new colours and patterns. They were becoming dogs, and humans were changing too, though we rarely think about it this way. Humans who partnered with these proto-dogs had advantages over those who did not. They could hunt more effectively, their canine partners helping to track and corner prey. They could guard their camps more securely, their dogs alerting them to dangers they might otherwise have missed. They could travel more safely, their companions watching their backs in a dangerous world. The partnership was changing both species, each adapting to the other, each becoming something new through the relationship. To understand how wolves became dogs, you must first understand the world in which this transformation began. The Ice Age was not simply a colder version of our world. It was a different planet, a place of extremes and dangers that would seem almost fantastical to modern eyes. Let me paint this world for you, so you can understand the context in which the most important interspecies partnership in history was forged. 20,000 years ago, during the last glacial maximum, ice sheets covered much of North America and northern Europe. In some places, the ice was more than 2 miles thick, so heavy that it pressed the land beneath it down into the Earth's crust. The weight of all this ice locked up so much water that sea levels were more than 300 feet lower than today. Land bridges connected continents that are now separated by ocean. Britain was connected to Europe, Alaska was connected to Siberia, Australia was connected to New Guinea. The map of the world was redrawn by ice and the absence of water. Beyond the edges of the ice sheets, the land was tundra and steppe, vast treeless plains covered in grasses and sedges and low shrubs. In summer, these plains exploded with life, the grasses growing thick and tall, feeding enormous herds of herbivores. Mammoths by the thousands grazed across the landscape, their long hair protecting them from the cold, their massive tusks sweeping snow aside to reach the vegetation beneath. Woolly rhinoceros browsed on shrubs and grasses. Giant bison, larger than any alive today, moved in herds that darkened the horizon. Wild horses galloped across the steppes. Reindeer migrated in numbers that would stagger the imagination, and where there were herbivores, there were predators. The Ice Age was a time of megafauna, of animals larger and more powerful than their modern descendants. Cave lions, bigger than African lions, hunted in prides across Eurasia. Dire wolves, heavier and more robust than modern wolves, competed with their smaller cousins for prey. Short-faced bears, capable of running down prey over open ground, were among the most formidable predators the world has ever seen. Saber-toothed cats still prowled some regions, their enormous fangs designed for killing large, thick-skinned prey. Humans were newcomers to many of these landscapes, having spread out of Africa in waves of migration that brought them to Europe, Asia, Australia, and eventually the Americas. They were not the largest or the strongest, or the fastest creatures in this world. They lacked the natural weapons of the great predators, the claws and fangs and raw power that could bring down a mammoth or fight off a cave lion. What they had was intelligence, cooperation, and technology. The humans of the Ice Age were fully modern people, with brains as large and capable as yours. They made sophisticated tools from stone, bone, and antler. They created art, painting the walls of caves with images of the animals they hunted and revered. They had language and culture, traditions and beliefs, social structures and spiritual practices. They buried their dead with grave goods, suggesting belief in an afterlife. They wore jewellery and decorated their bodies. They were, in every meaningful sense, people like us, facing challenges we can barely imagine. Their lives were organised around the hunt. In the Ice Age environment, plant foods were scarce for much of the year, available only during the brief summer growing season. Survival depended on hunting the large herbivores that grazed the steppes and tundra. This hunting was not a casual activity, but a central organising principle of society. It required planning and coordination, knowledge of animal behaviour and seasonal patterns, skill with weapons and tactics. It required cooperation among hunters, the ability to work together to bring down prey that no individual could kill alone. The wolves who shared this landscape faced similar challenges. Wolves are social hunters, living in packs that cooperate to bring down large prey. A single wolf cannot kill a healthy adult bison or moose, but a pack working together can. Wolf packs are organised around a breeding pair and their offspring, a family unit that hunts together, raises pups together, defends territory together. The social structure of wolves is not so different from the social structure of human hunter-gatherer bands, and this similarity may have been part of what made partnership possible. Wolves and humans were in many ways parallel species. Both were social, both hunted cooperatively, both communicated through a combination of vocalizations and body language. Both cared for their young in family groups. Both were intelligent, adaptable, capable of learning and problem-solving. Both were successful predators who had spread across much of the world. They were competitors, yes, but they were also potential partners, their similarities creating a foundation for understanding that would not have been possible with a solitary predator like a cat. Imagine the first contact between wolf and human. Imagine a scene that must have played out thousands of times across thousands of years in 1,000 different places before it finally led to something new. Let me tell you what it might have been like, this meeting that would change the world. A human hunting band has made a kill. Perhaps they have brought down a mammoth, a massive undertaking that required days of tracking, a coordinated attack with spears, and then hours of butchering. The carcass lies on the frozen ground, steam rising from the exposed meat, blood staining the snow. The humans work quickly, cutting away the choicest parts, loading them onto sleds or carrying frames, preparing to transport the precious food back to their camp. But they cannot take everything. A mammoth is too large, too heavy, too much for even a large band to carry. They will take what they can and leave the rest, and in the darkness beyond the torchlight, yellow eyes are watching. The wolves have been following the hunt for days. They know the patterns of human hunters, have learned that humans leave food behind, that human kills mean scavenging opportunities. They are not following out of any desire for friendship. They are following because they are hungry, because they are opportunistic, because free food is not something any predator can afford to ignore. The humans know the wolves are there. They can see the eye shine in the darkness, can hear the soft sounds of movement, can smell the musky scent of predator. The humans are not afraid exactly, but they are wary. Wolves are dangerous. A pack of wolves can kill a human, especially a human caught alone or injured. The hunters keep their weapons close, keep the fire burning bright, keep watch through the night. But the wolves do not attack. They wait. They have learned that attacking humans is dangerous, that humans fight back with weapons that can kill from a distance, that the cost of attacking usually outweighs the benefit. They have learned to wait, to let the humans leave, and then to move in on the remains. Morning comes. The humans finish their work, load the last of the meat they can carry, and begin the long walk back to camp. Behind them, they leave a carcass stripped of its best parts, but still rich with meat and fat and marrow. And the wolves move in. This is scavenging, pure and simple. There is no partnership here, no friendship, no mutual understanding, just two species exploiting the same resource in different ways. The humans take what they can carry, the wolves take what remains. Both benefit in a sense, but they are not cooperating. They are simply tolerating each other's presence. But tolerance is the first step. Tolerance creates proximity. Proximity creates opportunity for something more. Over generations, wolves who were more tolerant of humans, who could scavenge closer to human camps, who did not flee at the first sign of human activity, these wolves had advantages. They got more food. They survived better. They reproduced more successfully. Natural selection began to favour wolves who could coexist with humans, wolves who were less fearful, more bold, more comfortable in the strange and dangerous presence of these tool-using primates. The humans too began to see the wolves differently. They noticed that wolves near the camp meant warnings of approaching danger. The wolves' keen senses, their hearing and smell far superior to human capabilities, made them effective sentinels. A wolf's alert bark in the night could warn of a cave lion or a hostile human band approaching. The wolves were not intentionally guarding the humans. They were simply reacting to threats in their environment. But the effect was the same. Some humans began to tolerate the wolves more actively, perhaps tossing scraps of food in their direction, perhaps refraining from driving them away when they approached the camp's perimeter. Some wolves began to approach more closely, perhaps attracted by the food, perhaps drawn by something else, some early stirring of the bond that would eventually transform them. At some point, someone took a wolf pup home. This is the moment when everything changed, the moment when scavenging wolves became something else, when the commensal relationship became a domestic one. Someone looked at a wolf pup, saw something in it, and decided to raise it among humans. We do not know who this person was. We do not know exactly when or where it happened. But we can imagine what it might have been like. This first adoption that would echo through all of history. Perhaps a hunter killed an adult wolf and found pups in a nearby den, orphaned and helpless. Perhaps the hunter's child begged to keep one of the pups. Perhaps someone recognized that a wolf raised from infancy might be useful, might help with hunting or guarding. Perhaps someone simply felt compassion for a helpless creature and could not bring themselves to kill it. Whatever the reason, a wolf pup was brought into a human camp and raised as a member of the group. It was fed human food, scraps and bones and whatever else was available. It slept near the human fire, absorbing human sounds and smells from its earliest days. It learned to read human gestures and expressions, its young brain wiring itself to this strange new social environment. It grew up thinking of humans as its pack. This first wolf dog would have been different from its wild cousins, not in its genes, not yet, but in its behaviour, in its expectations, in its understanding of the world. It had been socialized to humans during the critical period of development, when young animals form their social bonds. It saw humans not as threats or as sources of scavenged food, but as family, as pack members, as the center of its social world. And the humans saw it differently too. This was not a wild wolf lurking at the edge of camp. This was a creature they had raised, that they knew as an individual, that had a name perhaps, or at least a recognized identity. This was a being they had invested in, fed, cared for. It was in some sense theirs. The bond between this first wolf dog and its human family would have been profound. Dogs are not simply tamed wolves. They are wolves who have been fundamentally transformed by their relationship with humans, wolves who have evolved to love us, to need us, to understand us in ways that wild wolves never could. But the seeds of this transformation were present in that first adopted pup. The first wolf who grew up believing it was part of a human pack. This wolf dog would have been useful. It could hunt alongside the humans, its speed and stamina and keen senses complementing human weapons and tactics. It could guard the camp, alerting to dangers that human senses might miss. It could track wounded prey, following blood trails that human noses could not detect. It could carry loads, pull sleds, herd other animals. It could provide warmth on cold nights, a furry body pressed against human bodies in the shelter. But usefulness does not explain the depth of the bond that formed. Humans did not domesticate dogs simply because they were useful. Humans domesticated dogs because something happened between the species, something that went beyond utility into the realm of emotion, of attachment, of love. That first wolf dog, raised among humans, would have formed bonds with its human family that were as strong as any wolf forms with its pack. Wolves are intensely social animals, capable of deep attachment, loyalty unto death, grief at separation. These emotional capacities, evolved over millions of years of wolf social life, were now directed at humans. The wolf dog loved its human family, and the humans, seeing that love, recognizing it, feeling it reciprocated, loved the wolf dog back. This is the secret at the heart of dog domestication. It was not just about usefulness. It was not just about food or hunting or guarding. It was about two species discovering that they could love each other, that the bonds evolved for their own kind could extend across the species barrier, that the loneliness of existence could be eased by the presence of a creature who was different, but who understood, who cared, who was there. When that first wolf dog died, its human family grieved. We know this because we have found ancient dog burials, dogs interred with care and ceremony, sometimes with grave goods, sometimes in the same graves as humans. The bond was real. The love was real. And it began with someone somewhere bringing a wolf pup home. Once wolves began living with humans, they began to change. Not immediately, not dramatically, but steadily, generation after generation, the wolves who lived with humans became less and less like their wild ancestors, and more like the dogs we know today. This transformation is one of the most remarkable in the history of life on Earth, a demonstration of how quickly evolution can act when selection pressures are strong and consistent. The first changes were behavioral. Wolves who were more tolerant of humans, who did not panic or become aggressive in human presence, were more likely to survive and reproduce in the human environment. Wolves who could read human gestures, who responded to human commands, who understood human intentions, were more valued by their human partners and more likely to be cared for and bred. Natural selection, guided by human preferences, began to shape wolf behavior toward tameness, toward trainability, toward what we might call friendliness. But behavioral changes came with physical changes too, in ways that surprised scientists when they first discovered them. In the 1950s, a Russian geneticist named Dmitry Belyaev began an experiment that would illuminate the domestication process. He started selectively breeding silver foxes, choosing only the tamest individuals to reproduce. Within just a few generations, the foxes began to change. They became tamer, yes, but they also developed floppy ears, curly tails, spotted coats, shorter snouts. They began to look, in other words, like dogs. Belyaev had discovered something remarkable. The genes that control tameness are linked to genes that control physical development. Selecting for tame behavior automatically selects for a whole suite of physical changes, a pattern called the domestication syndrome. This is why domestic animals across many species tend to share certain features: floppy ears and shorter faces and varied coloration and reduced brain size. These features are not directly selected for. They come along for the ride when tameness is selected. The wolves becoming dogs experienced the same syndrome. Their skulls became shorter and wider, their snouts less elongated, their teeth became smaller, their jaws less powerful. Their ears began to flop rather than stand erect. Their tails began to curl. Their coats developed new colours and patterns, spots and patches that would never appear in wild wolves. They became, in a word, cuter. This cuteness was not accidental. Humans are powerfully attracted to certain features that remind us of human infants. Large eyes, round faces, small noses, soft bodies. These are the features that trigger nurturing behaviour in humans, the features that make us say, "aw," and want to care for a creature. As dogs became tamer, they also became cuter, more appealing to human caretakers, more likely to be fed and protected and bred. The dogs were evolving to appeal to human psychology, to push the buttons in our brains that make us want to love and protect. But the changes went deeper than appearance. Dogs' brains changed too, particularly the systems involved in social cognition. Dogs became remarkably skilled at reading human emotions and intentions, better even than chimpanzees, our closest living relatives. Dogs can follow human pointing gestures, something that wolves cannot easily learn even with training. Dogs can read human facial expressions, recognizing happiness or anger or sadness. Dogs look at human faces in the same way humans look at each other, focusing on the eyes and the right side of the face where emotions are most clearly expressed. Dogs also developed the ability to form attachments to humans in ways that wolves cannot. A dog separated from its human shows signs of distress similar to a human infant separated from its mother. A dog reunited with its human shows joy that is unmistakable, the full-body wag, the whimpering, the face-licking celebration. These attachment behaviours are not simply learned. They are built into the dog's biology, the result of thousands of generations of selection for animals who bonded strongly with humans. Perhaps most remarkably, dogs and humans became biochemically synchronized. When a dog and its human gaze into each other's eyes, both experience a spike in oxytocin, the same hormone that surges between human mothers and infants, between human lovers, between close human friends. This oxytocin loop is not found between wolves and humans, not even between tame wolves and the humans who raised them. It is unique to dogs, evolved specifically for the human-dog relationship, a biochemical bond that makes the love between species not just emotional but physiological. The partnership between humans and dogs was forged in the hunt. Long before dogs were companions and pets, they were working partners, allies in the struggle to bring down prey and survive another winter. Understanding this original relationship helps us understand why dogs are the way they are, why the bond between human and dog feels so deep and so natural. Hunting with dogs transformed human capabilities. Humans have many advantages as hunters: our endurance, our intelligence, our ability to make and use weapons, our capacity for coordination and planning. But we also have significant limitations. Our sense of smell is poor compared to most mammals. Our hearing is mediocre. Our speed over short distances cannot match most prey animals. We cannot easily track wounded prey that has fled into dense cover. We tire quickly in certain conditions. We are vulnerable when alone. Dogs addressed all of these limitations. A dog's sense of smell is tens of thousands of times more sensitive than a human's. Dogs can detect the trail of an animal that passed hours ago, can track wounded prey through thick brush, can locate hidden game that humans would never find. A dog's hearing is far superior to ours, able to detect sounds at frequencies and distances beyond human perception. Dogs are faster than humans over short distances, able to chase down prey or harry it until it tires. Dogs can work in coordinated groups, communicating through body language and vocalizations to surround and corner prey. With dogs, human hunters could find more game, track it more effectively, bring it to bay more reliably. The efficiency of hunting increased dramatically. More efficiency meant more food, and more food meant larger populations, healthier children, greater survival through harsh winters. The partnership was not just helpful, it was transformative. But the hunting partnership was not a one-way relationship. Dogs gained from it too. A dog hunting with humans had access to portions of the kill, to food it did not have to catch entirely on its own. A dog living with humans had protection from the elements, warmth near the fire, shelter from the storms, A dog partnering with humans had allies against other predators, against the wolves and lions and bears that might threaten a dog alone. The partnership benefited both species, which is why it persisted and deepened over time. While dogs proved their worth in the hunt, they proved equally valuable in another role that was perhaps even more important for daily survival. They became guardians, protectors of human camps and families against the dangers of the night. This protective function may have been the original reason humans tolerated wolves near their camps, and it remained central to the human-dog relationship for thousands of years. The Ice Age world was dangerous after dark. Predators that humans could defend against during the day became lethal threats at night, when human vision was nearly useless and human reactions too slow. Cave lions, saber-toothed cats, dire wolves, cave hyenas, these were creatures that could attack without warning, could drag away a sleeping child or a solitary adult before anyone could respond. The night was a time of vulnerability, a time when humans were prey. Dogs changed this equation. A dog's senses remained sharp in the darkness when human senses failed. A dog could hear the soft footfall of an approaching predator, could smell the presence of danger long before it arrived, could alert the camp with barking and growling that roused sleepers and warned off threats. A dog never truly slept the way humans did, always maintaining some awareness of its surroundings, always ready to sound the alarm. This guardian role created a division of labour that benefited both species. Humans could sleep more deeply, more safely, knowing that their dogs were watching. This better sleep improved human health and cognitive function, made humans more effective during the day, contributed to survival in countless subtle ways. The dogs, in return, received food and shelter and protection, the benefits of partnership with the dominant species on the planet. As humans spread across the globe, dogs went with them. This is one of the most remarkable aspects of the human-dog story, the way that dogs accompanied humans into every environment, every continent, every climate where humans established themselves. Dogs were there when humans first entered the Americas. Dogs were there when humans colonized the Pacific Islands. Dogs were there, always there, partners in the great human adventure of exploration and settlement. The spread of dogs across the world was part of the larger spread of human populations, but dogs did not simply follow passively. They were active participants in human migrations, enabling journeys that might otherwise have been impossible. In the Arctic, dogs pulled sleds that allowed humans to travel across frozen landscapes, where no human could carry enough supplies to survive. Without sled dogs, the human colonization of the high Arctic might never have happened, or might have happened much later and less successfully. The dogs that spread across the world diversified as they went, adapting to local conditions shaped by local needs and preferences. In the Arctic, dogs became larger and stronger, better able to pull heavy loads through deep snow. In the deserts, dogs became leaner and faster, better able to tolerate heat and conserve water. In the mountains, dogs became sure-footed and thick-coated, adapted to cold and altitude. In the tropics, dogs became smaller and less hairy, better able to shed excess heat. This diversification happened through both natural selection and human selection. Natural selection favoured dogs who could survive in local conditions, who could tolerate the climate, who could find food and avoid local dangers. Human selection favoured dogs who performed desired functions, who hunted well or guarded effectively or herded skillfully or simply appealed to human aesthetic preferences. The combination of natural and human selection created the enormous diversity of dog types that existed in the traditional world. For most of the history of dogs, there were no breeds in the modern sense. There were types of dogs suited for different functions, hunting dogs and guarding dogs and herding dogs, but these types were not the rigidly defined breeds we know today. Dogs were selected for what they could do, not for how they looked. A good hunting dog was a good hunting dog regardless of its exact appearance, and breeding decisions were made based on performance rather than conformity to a standard. This began to change a few thousand years ago, as human societies became more complex and dog breeding became more deliberate. In ancient Egypt, distinct types of dogs were recognized and depicted in art. Sleek greyhound-like dogs for coursing game, heavy mastiff-like dogs for guarding and war. In ancient Rome, writers described different varieties of dogs suited for different purposes, and breeding was conducted to maintain and improve these varieties. In ancient China, small companion dogs were bred for the imperial court, their diminutive size and appealing appearance valued for their own sake. But the modern concept of breeds, with written standards and closed gene pools and breed registries, is remarkably recent. It emerged in Victorian England in the 19th century, part of a broader cultural movement that emphasised classification, standardisation, and competitive exhibition. The Kennel Club, founded in 1873, established the framework that still defines purebred dogs today, a framework of breed standards, stud books, and dog shows. Dogs have not only lived with humans, they have become embedded in human culture, represented in art and mythology, literature and religion, woven into the fabric of human society in ways that no other animal can match. Understanding this cultural dimension of the human-dog relationship reveals how deeply dogs have become part of who we are. The oldest known art depicting dogs dates back more than 15,000 years. Paintings and carvings that show dogs accompanying hunters, dogs running alongside humans, dogs participating in the activities that defined Stone Age life. These early artists, painting by torchlight in the depths of caves, chose to include dogs in their representations of the world, recognizing dogs as important beings worthy of artistic attention. In ancient civilizations, dogs appeared in art with increasing frequency and sophistication. Egyptian tomb painting showed dogs hunting alongside their masters, dogs sitting beneath the chairs of nobles, dogs mummified and buried with honours. The Egyptians associated dogs with Anubis, the jackal-headed god who guided souls to the afterlife, giving dogs a spiritual significance that transcended their practical roles. Greek and Roman mythology included dogs in numerous stories and associations. Cerberus, the three-headed dog, guarded the entrance to the underworld, preventing the living from entering and the dead from leaving. The goddess Artemis was often depicted with hunting dogs, faithful companions in her woodland pursuits. The story of Argos, the dog who waited 20 years for Odysseus to return from his wanderings, is one of the most moving passages in Homer's Odyssey. Old and neglected, lying on a pile of dung, Argos recognizes his master when even his family does not. He wags his tail one last time, then dies, having lived to see his master return. This story has resonated across millennia, capturing something essential about the devotion of dogs. In recent decades, scientists have begun to investigate the human-dog bond with the tools of modern research, revealing mechanisms and dimensions of the relationship that were previously invisible. This scientific exploration has confirmed what dog lovers have always known, that the bond between humans and dogs is real, profound, and mutually beneficial, but it has also revealed surprising details about how this bond works. One of the most important discoveries concerns the role of oxytocin, sometimes called the love hormone or the bonding hormone. Oxytocin is released in human brains during positive social interactions, during hugging and touching and gazing into the eyes of loved ones. It promotes feelings of trust and connection, reduces anxiety and stress, strengthens the bonds between individuals. It is central to the bond between mothers and infants, between romantic partners, between close friends. When researchers measured oxytocin levels during interactions between dogs and their owners, they found something remarkable. Both the dog and the human experienced surges of oxytocin when they gazed into each other's eyes. This mutual gaze, this locking of eyes between species, triggered the same biochemical response that bonds human mothers to their babies. The dog-human bond is not just emotional or psychological. It is physiological, written in hormones and neurotransmitters, as real as any chemical reaction. This oxytocin loop is not found in wolves, even wolves raised by humans from birth. There is something unique about dogs, something that evolved specifically for the relationship with humans that enables this cross-species bonding. Dogs have, quite literally, evolved to love us in a way that their wolf ancestors could not. And we have evolved, or at least our brains have been shaped by thousands of years of dog ownership to love them back. While most dogs in developed countries today are primarily companions, working dogs remain important in many contexts, their ancient partnerships with humans continuing in modern forms. These working dogs demonstrate the incredible versatility of the human-dog relationship, the many ways that dogs can contribute to human welfare. Service dogs assist people with disabilities, performing tasks that enable their handlers to live more independent lives. Guide dogs lead blind people through complex environments, navigating traffic and obstacles, finding doors and stairs and seats. Hearing dogs alert deaf people to important sounds, doorbells and alarms and approaching vehicles. Mobility assistance dogs help people with physical disabilities, picking up dropped objects, opening doors, pulling wheelchairs. Psychiatric service dogs help people with mental health conditions, interrupting panic attacks, providing grounding during dissociative episodes, creating space in crowded environments. Detection dogs use their extraordinary sense of smell to locate substances that humans cannot detect. Drug-sniffing dogs help law enforcement intercept illegal substances. Bomb-sniffing dogs protect airports and public spaces from explosive threats. Search and rescue dogs find people buried in rubble after earthquakes, lost in wilderness, drowned in water. Medical detection dogs can identify diseases by smell, detecting cancers and infections and blood sugar changes that no instrument can match. The detection abilities of dogs seem almost magical to humans, whose sense of smell is so much weaker. A dog's nose contains up to 300 million scent receptors, compared to about 6 million in humans. Dogs can detect substances at concentrations of parts per trillion, can distinguish between individuals by smell alone, can track scent trails that are days old. This olfactory superpower, evolved for hunting and social communication, has been redirected toward human purposes, another example of how the human-dog partnership exploits the complementary abilities of both species. In the last century, the primary role of dogs has shifted dramatically in developed countries. Dogs that were once working partners are now primarily companions, family members valued not for what they can do, but for who they are. This companion revolution has transformed the human-dog relationship in ways that are still unfolding. For most of human history, dogs lived outside human homes. They slept in kennels or barns or simply outdoors, their proximity to humans limited by practical considerations of cleanliness and hygiene. Even dogs that were valued and loved were not typically indoor pets in the modern sense. They were animals that lived alongside humans but not quite with them. This began to change in the 20th century, particularly after World War II. Rising prosperity meant that more people could afford to keep dogs purely as companions. Smaller homes and apartments meant that dogs needed to be house-trained and well-behaved to live indoors. Changing attitudes toward animals meant that dogs were increasingly seen as family members, deserving of care and consideration. The pet industry grew to meet the needs of this new relationship, offering food and toys and accessories and veterinary care that transformed dogs from working animals into pampered pets. Today, in many households, dogs are treated more like children than like animals. They sleep in human beds, eat special diets, receive regular medical care, are dressed in clothing, are celebrated on birthdays, are mourned deeply when they die. The amount of money spent on dogs in developed countries is staggering. Billions of dollars annually on food and veterinary care and grooming and accessories. Dogs have become full members of the consumer economy, targets of marketing, subjects of an industry devoted to their care and entertainment. We have talked much about what dogs mean to humans, but what does the relationship mean to dogs? What is it like to be a dog living with humans? This question is harder to answer than it might seem, because we cannot ask dogs directly and must infer their experience from behavior and biology. But we can make some reasonable guesses about the dog's perspective on the partnership. Dogs experience attachment to their humans that is similar in many ways to the attachment that human infants feel toward their caregivers. This is not just an analogy. The same brain systems that underlie human infant attachment seem to operate in dogs, producing similar behaviors and similar emotional responses. A dog separated from its human experiences distress that is visible in its behavior and measurable in its physiology, elevated cortisol, increased heart rate, signs of anxiety and fear. A dog reunited with its human experiences joy that is equally visible, the wild wagging, the excited vocalizations, the desperate need for contact. This attachment is not dependency in a negative sense. Dogs are capable of forming secure attachments, relationships that provide a stable base from which to explore the world, that buffer against stress and anxiety, that promote confidence and well-being. A dog with a secure attachment to its human is typically happier and more relaxed than a dog without such attachment, more willing to explore new environments, more resilient in the face of challenges. The attachment serves the dog's well-being, not just the human's emotional needs. Dogs also seem to experience something like love, if we define love as a strong positive emotion directed toward a specific individual, a desire to be near that individual, distress at separation, joy at reunion. Dogs clearly prefer their humans to strangers, seek out their company, show behaviors that indicate positive emotional states in their presence. Whether this constitutes love in the full human sense we cannot say, but it is certainly something real and important to the dog. Living with dogs teaches humans many things, lessons that extend far beyond the practical matters of care and training. Dogs have been teachers of humans for thousands of years, modelling virtues and offering insights that have shaped human character and understanding. Dogs teach us about presence. A dog lives in the present moment in a way that humans, with our constant planning and remembering, rarely achieve. A dog on a walk is fully engaged with the sights and smells and sounds of right now, not worrying about tomorrow's problems or regretting yesterday's mistakes. This presence is part of what makes dogs such good companions. They bring us into the moment, help us notice the world around us, remind us that now is the only time we ever actually experience. Dogs teach us about loyalty. The devotion of a dog to its human is legendary, the stuff of countless stories and examples. Dogs wait for owners who will never return. Dogs protect owners at risk to their own lives. Dogs remain faithful through poverty and illness and the slow decline of age. This loyalty is not calculated or conditional. It is simply given, a gift that asks nothing in return but presence and care. Dogs teach us about forgiveness. Scold a dog, and within minutes it will be seeking your company again, tail wagging, ready to resume the relationship. Dogs do not hold grudges, do not keep accounts of wrongs, do not withdraw affection because of past conflicts. This forgiveness is not forgetfulness. Dogs remember experiences and learn from them, but they do not let past negative experiences poison present relationships. They offer a fresh start with every interaction. Dogs teach us about joy, the happiness of a dog greeting its returning owner, the enthusiasm of a dog offered a walk or a treat, the abandon of a dog playing with a favourite toy. These expressions of joy are unguarded and complete in a way that adult humans rarely allow themselves. Dogs do not hide their happiness, do not moderate it for social acceptability, do not worry about looking foolish. They simply feel joy and express it, teaching us that joy is possible and worth expressing. Dogs teach us about death. For most dog owners, the death of a dog is their first profound experience of grief, the first loss that cuts to the heart. Dogs live shorter lives than humans, and loving a dog means accepting that you will probably outlive it, that the grief of loss is built into the relationship from the beginning. This grief is real and deep, sometimes surprising people with its intensity, but it is also instructive, a lesson in how to love something mortal, how to face loss, how to continue living after something precious has died. What makes a dog a dog? This question has been explored intensively by geneticists in recent years, using the tools of modern DNA analysis to understand how wolves became dogs and what distinguishes dogs from their wild ancestors. The answers have been surprising and illuminating. The domestication of dogs involved changes in many genes, but some genes stand out as particularly important. Genes affecting behavior were among the first to change, genes that influenced fear and aggression, tameness and trainability. Dogs differ from wolves in having variants of these genes that reduce fear of novelty, that decrease aggression, that promote the kind of calm temperament that allows living with humans. One particularly interesting discovery involves genes related to digestion. Dogs have more copies of the gene for amylase, an enzyme that digests starch, than wolves do. This genetic change allowed dogs to thrive on the starchy scraps of human meals, to exploit a food source that wolves could not efficiently use. The ability to eat what humans ate may have been crucial for dogs living in human camps, a nutritional adaptation that supported the behavioral adaptations that defined the domestication process. What does the future hold for dogs? This is a question that dog lovers contemplate with a mixture of hope and concern, optimism about the possibilities, and worry about the trends that might harm the species that has given us so much. The population of dogs continues to grow, both pet dogs in developed countries and free-ranging dogs in developing countries. There may be 1 billion dogs on Earth today, more than at any previous time in history. Dogs are a successful species by any measure, their partnership with humans having produced numbers that their wolf ancestors could never have achieved alone. But numbers do not equal well-being. Many dogs live lives of suffering, street dogs struggling for survival in cities hostile to their presence, shelter dogs awaiting adoption that may never come. puppy mill dogs bred in conditions of confinement and neglect, purebred dogs suffering from genetic diseases that humans bred into them. The abundance of dogs has not translated into universal welfare. There are reasons for hope. Animal welfare laws have improved in many countries, providing dogs with legal protections that did not exist in the past. The recognition that dogs are sentient beings capable of suffering has grown, influencing how dogs are treated in homes and shelters and farms. The science of dog cognition and emotion has revealed the richness of canine experience, building a foundation for more enlightened policies and practices. Even today, after thousands of years of domestication and centuries of breed development, your dog remains part wolf. The wild ancestor is still there, visible in behavior and biology, a reminder of where dogs came from and what they fundamentally are. Understanding the wolf within your dog can help you understand your dog better. The basic instincts of wolves persist in dogs, modified, but not eliminated by domestication. The prey drive that made wolves effective hunters remains in dogs, triggering chase behavior when something small and fast moves across their field of vision. The territorial instincts that protected wolf packs remain in dogs, producing barking and guarding behavior around the home. The social instincts that organized wolf packs remain in dogs, creating the need for companionship and the tendency to form hierarchies. Dogs still communicate in ways that wolves would recognize. The body language of dogs, the positions of ears and tail and body, the movements that signal play or aggression or submission, these are wolf signals, modified slightly but fundamentally unchanged. When your dog rolls on its back to show submission, it is performing a behavior that wolves perform. When your dog play bows to invite play, it is using a signal that wolves invented. Throughout history, individual dogs have become famous, their stories capturing human imagination and illustrating the depth of the human-dog bond. These famous dogs are not just historical curiosities, they are windows into the relationship between species, examples of what dogs have meant to humans and what humans have meant to dogs. Hachiko, the Akita who waited for his dead owner at a Tokyo train station every day for nearly 10 years, became a symbol of loyalty that transcended death. His owner, a professor, had died of a stroke at work in 1925, but Hachiko continued to appear at the station every afternoon at the time his owner's train had arrived, waiting for a reunion that would never come. His faithfulness moved the Japanese public, who erected a statue in his honor that still stands at Shibuya Station. Balto, the sled dog who led the final leg of the 1925 serum run to Nome, Alaska, became a hero of the diphtheria epidemic that threatened to devastate the remote community. When the medicine needed to combat the outbreak could not be delivered by plane, in the harsh winter conditions, dog sled teams relayed it across nearly 700 miles of frozen wilderness. Balto led his team through a blizzard in the final stretch, arriving with the serum that saved countless lives. A statue of Balto stands in Central Park, a monument to the dogs who served as lifelines in the harsh conditions of the North. Part of loving a dog is accepting that you will probably outlive it, that the relationship will end with loss. Dog lifespans vary by breed and size, from about 6 or 7 years for some giant breeds to 15 or more for small breeds, but nearly all dogs die before their human companions. This is the price of the partnership, the grief that comes with the love. The grief of losing a dog is real and should not be minimized. People who have not experienced it may dismiss pet loss as lesser than human loss, as something to get over quickly, as somehow shameful to feel deeply. These attitudes are wrong and harmful. The bond between human and dog is genuine, and the grief at its ending is genuine too. If you have loved a dog and lost it, your grief deserves respect, from others and from yourself. The death of a dog often brings up complicated feelings. There is the pure grief of loss, the absence of a presence that had become part of your daily life, the silence where there had been barking and breathing and the click of nails on floors. There is often guilt, the feeling that you could have done more, that you should have noticed the illness sooner, that the decision to euthanize was wrong or right, but either way weighs heavily. There is sometimes relief, especially if the dog suffered at the end, relief that the suffering has ended, followed by guilt at feeling relieved. Allow yourself to grieve. Cry if you need to. Talk about your dog, share memories, tell the stories that capture who they were. Look at photos and remember good times. Do not let anyone make you feel foolish for grieving a dog. The bond was real, and the loss is real. We often tell the story of dog domestication as something humans did to wolves, as if we were the active agents, and wolves were passive recipients of our attention. But there is another way to tell the story, one that gives wolves more credit, one that recognizes that wolves may have chosen us as much as we chose them. Think about what domestication required from the wolf side. It required wolves who were willing to approach humans, to overcome the fear that evolution had instilled in them. It required wolves who could tolerate human presence, human sounds, human smells, human unpredictability. It required wolves who could redirect their social instincts toward an alien species, who could form bonds with creatures who were fundamentally different from themselves. These requirements were not trivial. They represented a dramatic departure from normal wolf behavior. The wolves who became dogs were pioneers, explorers of a new ecological niche that they helped create. They were not captured and forced into domestication. They were not passive subjects of human breeding programs. They were active participants in a relationship that benefited them as much as it benefited humans. They approached us, tolerated us, bonded with us, because doing so improved their survival and reproduction. They chose us. Humans and dogs do not share a language in the way that humans share languages with each other. Dogs cannot understand most of what we say, and we cannot understand their vocalizations as they understand each other. And yet communication happens between species, a rich and complex communication that allows cooperation and connection. Dogs are remarkably skilled at reading human body language. They notice our gestures and our postures, our movements and our tensions. They can tell when we are about to do something, reading our preparatory movements before we are consciously aware of them. They can tell when we are happy or sad or angry, reading our emotional states from our faces and our bodies. This ability to read humans is not something dogs share with wolves. It is a specifically dog adaptation, evolved for living with humans. Dogs also respond to human speech, though not quite as we might think. Dogs can learn to associate words with actions or objects, understanding sight or ball or walk as signals for specific things. Some dogs learn hundreds of such associations, demonstrating a capacity for vocabulary that surprises many people. But dogs probably do not understand words the way humans do. They respond to the sound patterns of words, to the tone of voice in which words are delivered, to the context in which words are spoken. As you drift towards sleep, let me reflect on why dogs matter, why this one species among millions has become so important to humans, why the relationship between human and dog has endured and deepened over tens of thousands of years. Dogs matter because they love us. This is the simple and profound truth at the heart of the relationship. Dogs love their humans with a devotion that is unearned and unconditional. They do not love us because we are good or successful or admirable. They love us because we are their people. This love is a gift, freely given, asking nothing in return but presence and care. Dogs matter because they need us. A dog is not a wild animal that could survive without human support. Dogs are dependent on humans, created by humans, adapted for living with humans. This dependency is sometimes portrayed as a weakness, as a reason to prefer cats or other more independent pets. But dependency creates relationship. The need that dogs have for us creates bonds that would not exist if dogs could simply walk away. Dogs matter because they teach us. They teach us about presence and joy, about loyalty and forgiveness, about the capacity for love across the species barrier. They teach us about responsibility, about caring for another being who depends on us completely. They teach us about mortality, about loss, about grief. These lessons are not trivial. They shape who we are and how we relate to the world. Dogs matter because they are different from us. In a world where humans are increasingly surrounded only by other humans and by human creations, dogs provide a connection to something other. They remind us that we are not alone on this planet, that other minds exist, that we share the world with creatures who experience it differently than we do. Let me tell you more about how your dog experiences the world, about the senses that make dogs what they are, about the reality that exists for your dog that you can barely imagine. Understanding your dog's sensory world is part of understanding your dog, part of appreciating just how different and how remarkable these creatures are. Your dog's nose is a miracle of evolution, an organ so sensitive that it defies human comprehension. While you have about 6 million olfactory receptors in your nose, your dog has up to 300 million. While the part of your brain devoted to analysing smells is about the size of a postage stamp, The equivalent part of your dog's brain is about the size of a handkerchief. Your dog lives in a world of smell that you cannot access, a world as rich and detailed as your visual world but completely invisible to you. When your dog sniffs a fire hydrant or a tree trunk, it is reading a message board left by other dogs, a record of who passed by, when they passed, their sex and reproductive status, their health, perhaps their emotional state. A single sniff can tell your dog things that would take you extensive investigation to discover. The dogs who walked this path hours ago are still present for your dog, their scent signatures lingering, telling stories that only dogs can read. Your dog's ears are also far more capable than yours. Dogs can hear frequencies up to about 65,000 Hz, compared to the 20,000 Hz that is the upper limit for humans. This means dogs can hear sounds that are completely inaudible to you, ultrasonic frequencies that exist in a realm of silence to human ears but are perfectly audible to dogs. The relationship between dogs and human children is one of the most beautiful aspects of the human-dog partnership, a relationship that has been celebrated in countless stories and images that many adults remember with nostalgia from their own childhoods. But it is also a relationship that requires care and understanding, because children and dogs are both vulnerable in ways that can lead to tragedy if the relationship is not managed well. Children benefit enormously from growing up with dogs. Studies show that children who have dogs develop greater empathy, learning to consider the feelings and needs of another being. They develop greater responsibility, as the care of a dog provides age-appropriate opportunities to learn about commitment and follow-through. They develop greater social competence, as dogs provide practice in relationship and communication that transfers to human relationships. The emotional benefits of dogs for children are particularly significant. A dog provides unconditional love that does not depend on the child's performance or behavior. A dog provides a confidant who will listen without judgment, who will not tell secrets, who will comfort without advice. A dog provides a constant in a world of change, a presence that remains the same when everything else seems to be shifting. One of the hardest parts of loving a dog is watching that dog grow old, seeing the puppy you brought home become the senior who moves stiffly and sleeps much of the day. The aging of dogs is compressed compared to human aging, a process that happens over years rather than decades, that seems to accelerate even as you try to slow it down. Dogs are considered seniors at different ages depending on their size. Small dogs may not show signs of aging until they are 10 or 11 years old and may live into their late teens. Giant breeds like Great Danes may be considered senior at 5 or 6 and rarely live past 10. Medium-sized dogs fall somewhere in between. The signs of aging in dogs are similar in many ways to the signs of aging in humans. Joints become stiff and painful, arthritis being one of the most common conditions in senior dogs. Vision and hearing decline, with many older dogs becoming partially or completely deaf or blind. Metabolism slows, making weight management more challenging. But caring for a senior dog is also a privilege. The bond between an owner and a dog deepens over years, becoming richer and more nuanced as both partners learn each other's ways. An old dog knows you in ways that a young dog cannot, has shared years of your life, has been present through changes and challenges. The love of an old dog is seasoned, tested, proven. The human-dog partnership exists in every culture, on every continent, in every kind of society. But it takes different forms in different places, shaped by local conditions, local histories, local beliefs about animals and their proper relationship to humans. In wealthy Western countries, the dominant model of dog ownership is the pet, the family companion kept primarily for emotional rather than practical purposes. These dogs live indoors, eat commercial food, receive regular veterinary care, are often treated as family members with rights and needs that deserve consideration. In many parts of the world, dogs occupy a different position in human society. Free-ranging dogs, sometimes called village dogs or street dogs, live in close proximity to humans without being owned by any particular individual or family. These dogs scavenge for food, reproduce without human control, maintain their own social structures independent of human households. Throughout human history, dogs have had spiritual significance, appearing in religions and mythologies, associated with gods and afterlives, given meanings that transcend their physical existence. This spiritual dimension of dogs reflects the depth of the human-dog relationship, the way that dogs have become part of how humans understand the cosmos and their place within it. In ancient Egypt, dogs were associated with Anubis, the jackal-headed god who guided souls to the afterlife. In Norse mythology, the monstrous wolf Fenrir was destined to kill Odin at Ragnarok, the end of the world. In many indigenous cultures around the world, dogs have spiritual significance that varies widely in its specific forms. For many people today, dogs are not just companions but spiritual partners, beings who enrich life at the deepest levels, who provide meaning and purpose that transcends practical benefit. In recent decades, a new chapter has opened in the human-dog story, the rise of rescue and shelter adoption as a major path to dog ownership. This development reflects changing attitudes toward dogs, growing awareness of the problems of overpopulation and abandonment, and a desire among many people to give homes to dogs who need them rather than buying from breeders. Animal shelters exist in most developed countries, organizations that take in homeless, abandoned and surrendered dogs and try to find them new homes. The dogs in shelters come from many backgrounds. Some were surrendered by owners who could no longer keep them. Some were strays found wandering. Some were seized from abusive or neglectful situations. Adopting a rescue dog is different from buying a puppy from a breeder. The dog's history may be unknown or traumatic. The dog may have behavioral issues related to past experiences, but rescue dogs also have advantages. They are often already house-trained, their adult temperament is already apparent, and adopting a rescue dog saves a life. Living well with dogs requires training, but training is not just about teaching dogs to obey commands. It is about building communication, about creating understanding between species, about helping dogs learn to navigate a human world that their wolf ancestors never imagined. Modern training approaches emphasize positive reinforcement, rewarding desired behaviors rather than punishing undesired ones. This approach is not only more humane but more effective, creating dogs who enjoy training, who are eager to learn, who work willingly rather than fearfully. The foundation of positive training is understanding what motivates dogs. Most dogs are motivated by food, making treats an effective training reward. Many dogs are motivated by play, making toys and games useful rewards. Some dogs are motivated primarily by social interaction, by praise and attention from their humans. Dogs have remarkable power to heal, to comfort, to support humans through difficult times. This healing power has been recognized informally for centuries, but in recent decades it has been studied scientifically and harnessed therapeutically. Dogs now work as therapy animals in hospitals and nursing homes, as emotional support animals for people with mental health conditions, as partners in various forms of animal-assisted therapy. The healing power of dogs operates through several mechanisms. Dogs provide unconditional positive regard, acceptance without judgment that is hard to find from other humans. Dogs provide physical comfort, the warmth and softness of a furry body, the calming effect of stroking and petting. Dogs provide distraction from pain and worry, focusing attention on the present moment. The people who love dogs are as varied as dogs themselves, but certain patterns emerge when we look at dog owners as a group. Dog owners often share certain personality traits. They tend to be more extroverted than non-dog owners, more outgoing, more comfortable with social interaction. Dog owners also tend to be more agreeable, more cooperative, more concerned with getting along with others. But dog ownership is not limited to any personality type. All kinds of people love dogs. What unites dog owners is not a specific personality but a capacity for relationship with non-human animals, a willingness to open the heart to a being who is different, but who can love and be loved. Every time a new puppy comes into a home, the ancient story begins again. Every time a human and a dog meet for the first time, the moment that happened in the Ice Age happens again. The relationship between human and dog is not just history, it is an eternal return, an ongoing recreation of the bond that first formed when wolves and humans found each other in the frozen wilderness. A puppy does not know this history. It does not know that its ancestors were wolves, that its species was shaped by thousands of years of partnership with humans. It knows only what is in front of it. And yet everything about the puppy carries history within it. The way it looks to humans for guidance, the way it wags its tail in greeting, the way it bonds so quickly and so completely. For every dog that has been remembered, named, loved, there are millions of dogs that have been forgotten, anonymous members of the species who lived and died without leaving any trace in human memory. The dogs we know, the famous dogs and beloved pets, are just a tiny fraction of all the dogs who have ever lived. There were the dogs of prehistory, the first wolves who dared to approach human fires, the first puppies raised by human hands. We do not know their names, do not know what they looked like, do not know the specific humans who loved them, but they were real. There were the working dogs of every era, the hunting dogs and herding dogs and sled dogs who laboured alongside humans for thousands of years. Most of these dogs were not named in any record that survives. They lived and worked and died and were replaced by the next generation. Every dog that has ever lived was a being with experiences, with moments of joy and moments of fear, with relationships and preferences and a way of being in the world. When we take on a dog, we make a promise, whether we speak it aloud or not. We promise to care for this being, to meet its needs, to provide food and shelter and veterinary care. We promise to train it well, to socialize it properly, to set it up for success in a human world. We promise to be patient when it makes mistakes, to be kind when it struggles, to be present through the joys and the difficulties. We promise ultimately to love it. This promise is not always kept. Shelters are full of dogs whose people did not keep the promise. But when the promise is kept, something beautiful happens. A relationship forms that benefits both partners, that enriches both lives, that creates meaning and joy that would not exist otherwise. The wolf that lives in your heart is not the wolf of fear and danger, the wolf of fairy tales who threatens grandmothers and little girls. It is the wolf of partnership, of mutual aid, of finding in another species a companion for the journey through the cold and dangerous world. That wolf has been in human hearts for thousands of generations, passed down from the first people who welcomed wolves to their fires. Cherish that wolf. It is part of what makes you human. It is your connection to the long story of human-canine partnership, your inheritance from ancestors who discovered that love could cross the species barrier. As sleep takes you now, as consciousness fades and dreams begin, perhaps you will dream of dogs. People often do. Dogs appear in human dreams with remarkable frequency, running through our nighttime visions as they run through our waking lives, companions even in the realm of sleep. Dogs dream too. If you have watched a sleeping dog, you have seen the twitching paws, the muffled barks, the eye movements that indicate dreaming. What do dogs dream about? We cannot know for certain, but scientists believe that dogs, like humans, dream about their daily experiences. They dream about the walks they have taken, the smells they have smelled, the games they have played. They dream about their humans, perhaps. There is something touching about the idea that dogs dream about us. We spend our days together and then, when sleep separates us, we dream about each other, human and dog processing in parallel the experiences we shared. The night is deep now, and sleep is here. You have journeyed far from the frozen steppes of the Ice Age to the warm beds where dogs sleep tonight, from the first cautious meetings between wolf and human to the profound bonds that connect millions of people to their canine companions. Carry this story with you into sleep. Let it become part of you, part of how you understand dogs and yourself and the relationship between species. Let it deepen your appreciation for the dog who shares your life, if you have one, or for the dogs you have loved in the past, or for the dog who may come into your future. The wolf that became your best friend is still becoming. The story is not over. Every day, dogs and humans are writing new chapters, forming new bonds, discovering new dimensions of what the partnership can be. You are part of this ongoing creation. In the end, the story of dogs is simple. It is the story of friendship, the oldest and most enduring friendship between species that the world has ever known. Before there were farms, before there were cities, before there were written words or measured time, there were dogs. They were the first animals to join human lives, and they remain the most completely joined, partners in a sense that no other species can claim. The first friend appeared in the Ice Age, a wolf bold enough or desperate enough to approach human fires, to trade the freedom of the wild for the warmth and food that humans could provide. That first friend changed everything. It opened a door that could never be closed, proved that the barrier between species could be crossed, showed that love could flow between beings who did not share a language or a form. From that first friend descended all the dogs who have ever lived, millions upon millions of animals who have shared human lives across every continent and every era. They have been hunters and guardians, workers and companions, heroes and humble presences in ordinary homes. They have been loved fiercely and mourned deeply. They have given everything they had and asked only presents in return. And when the last human faces the last night, If such a time ever comes, there will probably be a dog beside them. This is not sentimentality, but prediction. Dogs have been with humans through every disaster and transformation our species has faced. They were there when we painted caves and when we built cities. They were there when we crossed oceans and when we landed on the moon. They will be there until the end, whatever the end may be. This is the meaning of the first and last friend. Dogs were there at the beginning and will be there at the end. They have been with us longer than any other domestic animal, longer than any friend except other humans. They know us better than any other species knows us, have adapted themselves to our ways more completely, have earned a place in our hearts that no other animal occupies. You are part of this story. Your love for dogs, your bond with your own dog, your memories of dogs past. These are threads in a tapestry that began in the Ice Age and continues weaving still. The friendship continues through you, is renewed by you, will be passed on because of you. Honour the friendship, cherish it, and know that in loving dogs, you are participating in something ancient and eternal, something that defines what it means to be human in relationship with the other creatures of this world. Let me hold you here for one more moment before sleep takes you completely. Let me speak one more time about the dog who may be sleeping near you, the warm presence in the dark, the companion who has given you so much and asks so little. That dog is a miracle. Not a miracle in the supernatural sense, but a miracle in the sense of something wonderful that should not exist but does. The chain of events that produced your dog stretches back through thousands of generations, through millions of individual animals, through circumstances that could easily have gone differently at any point. And yet here is your dog, alive, breathing, dreaming perhaps of you. Every dog is improbable. Every dog is the result of choices made by humans and by dogs, of matings that happened and matings that did not, of puppies who survived when others did not. Your dog is not just a dog. It is the only dog exactly like it that has ever existed or ever will exist. And your relationship with your dog is equally improbable. Out of all the people in the world and all the dogs in the world, somehow you found each other. Whether through a breeder or a shelter, through a friend's litter or a chance encounter, the path that brought you together was unique, unrepeatable, yours alone. Treasure this improbability. In an infinite universe where most possibilities never become actual, you and your dog actualized each other, became real to each other, formed a bond that matters. Your dog will not live forever. No dog does. The time you have together is measured in years, not decades, and each year passes faster than the one before. Do not waste this time. Do not postpone the walks and the play and the simple presence. Do not assume there will always be more time. And when the time comes, when age or illness takes your dog from you, grieve fully. Do not apologize for your grief. It is not just a dog. It is your dog, your friend, your companion through years of life. But then, when the grief is eased, when you are ready, open your heart again. There are dogs who need homes, who need the love you have to give, who would become your next companion if you would let them. The partnership between humans and dogs does not end with any single dog. It continues as long as humans are willing to love and dogs are willing to be loved. Sleep now. Sleep with love for your dog warm in your heart. Sleep knowing that the partnership is good, that the bond is real, that the wolf who became your best friend is still your best friend, still sleeping near, still watching over you as dogs have watched over humans since the world was young. The ancient bond continues through you. Guard it well. Honour it with love, and pass it on. The wolf became your best friend, and best friends are forever. Good night. The fire crackles in the darkness, and outside the circle of light the wolves are waiting. This is the scene that played out countless times in the Ice Age, the scene that was the beginning of everything we have been discussing tonight. Let me take you deeper into that moment, into the experience of the humans who sat around those fires and the wolves who watched from the shadows. The humans are tired. They have been walking all day, following the herds, carrying their children and their tools and the meagre supplies that sustain their nomadic lives. The fire is small, barely enough to keep the cold at bay, but it is everything to them. It is warmth and light and safety. It is the boundary between their world and the wild world beyond, the line that separates the human from the animal. But the line is not so clear as they might think. The wolves watching from the darkness are not so different from the humans around the fire. They too are tired from travelling. They too are hungry, always hungry, searching constantly for the next meal. They too have families to protect, pups to feed, social bonds that give meaning to their lives. They too are intelligent, adaptable, capable of learning from experience. They too look at the fire and see something that could be useful, if only they could overcome their fear. One wolf is bolder than the others. Perhaps she is young and has not yet learned the full depth of fear that keeps wolves away from humans. Perhaps she is old and desperate, too hungry to care about the risk. Perhaps she's simply different, a variation in a population, a wolf with slightly less fear response than her companions. Whatever the reason, she approaches closer than the others, close enough that the humans notice her, close enough that she can smell the meat they're cooking, close enough that she must decide whether to flee or to stay. She stays. And in that moment, in that decision to stay near the fire despite the fear, something begins that will change the world. The humans see her, this wolf at the edge of the firelight. They could throw rocks, could shout, could drive her away. They have done it before, will do it again with other wolves who come too close. But something about this wolf gives them pause. Perhaps she looks less threatening than others, her posture submissive, her eyes not meeting theirs directly. Perhaps they are curious about a wolf that does not flee. Perhaps they're simply too tired to bother with driving her away. One of the humans, perhaps on impulse, perhaps with calculation, throws a bone in the wolf's direction. Not close enough that the wolf feels threatened. Not far enough that the gesture is meaningless. Just the right distance to say, "Here is food, it is for you, you may have it." The wolf hesitates. Every instinct tells her to run. Humans are dangerous. Humans kill wolves when they can. But the smell of that bone, the marrow inside it, the calories that could mean the difference between life and death in the harsh Ice Age world, the smell is too strong to resist. She takes the bone. She retreats to the shadows to gnaw on it. And she remembers. She remembers that this group of humans gave her food instead of throwing rocks. She remembers the location, the smell of these particular humans, the way they move and speak. And the next day, when the humans break camp and continue their journey, she follows. The humans notice that they are being followed. A wolf on their trail, staying always at the edge of visibility, never approaching but never leaving. They discuss it among themselves. Is this wolf a threat? Should they try to kill it? But the wolf never threatens them. It never comes too close. It just follows day after day as they move across the landscape. And then one night, when a different predator approaches the camp, the wolf barks. It is a warning, a sound that all the humans recognize, a sound that rouses them from sleep and alerts them to danger. They grab their weapons, they build up the fire, they prepare to defend themselves, and the predator, seeing the humans awake and armed, decides to look for easier prey elsewhere. The humans look at the wolf, and the wolf looks at the humans, and something passes between them. Not friendship, not yet, but something. Recognition, possibility, the first stirring of a relationship that will transform both species. This is how it might have happened. We cannot know for certain, but this kind of gradual approach, this slow building of tolerance into something more, this is consistent with what we know about domestication and about the behavior of wolves and humans. It was not a single moment, but a process, a series of moments stretching across generations, each moment bringing the two species slightly closer together. Let me tell you more about the wolves of the Ice Age, the ancestors of your dog, the wild creatures who would become something no one could have predicted. These wolves were not exactly like the wolves that exist today. They lived in a different world, faced different challenges, belonged to populations that have since changed or gone extinct. But they were wolves, recognizably wolves, with the basic nature that defines the species. Wolves are pack animals, which means they are social in ways that many predators are not. A lion may hunt alone. A tiger may spend most of its life in solitude. But wolves live in families, depend on cooperation, communicate constantly with each other through a sophisticated language of sounds and postures and scents. This sociality is key to understanding how wolves became dogs. A solitary animal could not have made the transition. Only an animal already wired for social bonds, already capable of attachment and communication and cooperation, could form the kind of relationship that dogs have with humans. The pack structure of wolves is built around a breeding pair and their offspring from multiple years. The parents lead, the older offspring help raise the younger ones, and the whole group works together to hunt prey that no individual wolf could bring down alone. This structure creates opportunities for learning and teaching, for the transmission of knowledge from generation to generation, for the kind of cultural accumulation that allows wolf packs to develop distinctive traditions and behaviours. Wolf pups are raised with intensive care. They are born helpless, unable to see or hear, completely dependent on their mothers for warmth and milk. Over the following weeks and months, they grow rapidly, learning to walk, to play, to interact with their packmates, to understand the complex social world of the pack. This extended period of development, this time of learning and socialization, is crucial for wolf nature. It is also what made it possible for humans to raise wolf pups as their own, to socialize them to human society during the critical period when social bonds are formed. Wolves communicate constantly, using a repertoire of sounds and body language that conveys information about their emotional states, their intentions, their social relationships. A wolf can tell another wolf's mood from the position of its ears, the carriage of its tail, the tension in its body. A wolf can convey submission or dominance, playfulness or aggression, fear or confidence, all without making a sound. This communication system, evolved over millions of years of social living, would prove adaptable to communication with humans. Dogs still use wolf body language, and humans who learn to read it can communicate with their dogs in ways that go beyond words. The hunting behavior of wolves is cooperative and sophisticated. A wolf pack hunting a moose or elk works together, some wolves driving the prey while others wait to intercept, some testing the prey's defenses while others conserve energy for the final attack. This coordination requires communication, timing, and what might be called tactical intelligence, the ability to read a situation and respond appropriately. Wolves learn hunting from their elders, gradually developing the skills they will need to survive. This hunting intelligence, this ability to coordinate with others, to read situations, to learn from experience, all of this was present in the wolves who began associating with humans. It was not created by domestication. It was the raw material from which domestication worked, the foundation on which the human-dog relationship was built. The Ice Age wolves who had become dogs lived in a world of extraordinary abundance and extraordinary danger. The great herds of mammoths and bison and horses that roamed the steppes represented more prey than wolves could ever consume. But the predators that competed for that prey were formidable: cave lions and giant bears and other wolves, all competing for the same resources. Success in this world required intelligence, flexibility, and the ability to exploit opportunities wherever they arose. The opportunity that human camps represented was unlike any wolves had encountered before. Here were creatures who killed more than they could eat, who left behind carcasses rich with meat and fat and marrow. Here were creatures who maintained fires that kept other predators at bay, who created zones of relative safety in a dangerous world. Here were creatures who, if approached correctly, might not be enemies at all but something else entirely. The wolves who exploited this opportunity were probably not typical wolves. They were likely individuals at the margins of wolf society, subordinate animals who had difficulty competing for food and mates within normal pack structures. For these marginal wolves, human camps offered something they could not find elsewhere: access to resources without the competition they faced in the wolf world. The very qualities that made them unsuccessful wolves: reduced fear, increased tolerance of novelty, willingness to approach the unfamiliar. These qualities made them successful proto-dogs. Natural selection works on variation. In any population, individuals differ, some more fearful, some less, some more aggressive, some less, some more tolerant of novelty, some less. Usually there is an optimal level of each trait, and selection favours individuals near that optimum. But when the environment changes, when new opportunities arise, traits that were previously disadvantageous may become advantageous. The less fearful wolves, the ones who could approach human camps, suddenly had access to resources that their more fearful companions could not reach. Generation after generation, the wolves who could tolerate humans outreproduced those who could not. The genes for reduced fear spread through the population of wolves living near humans, and with those genes came other changes: the physical changes of domestication syndrome, the shifts in development that produced floppy ears and curly tails and shorter snouts. The wolves were becoming dogs, not through any conscious human effort, but through the automatic process of natural selection, acting on a population in a new environment. This process took time, hundreds of generations, thousands of years. The wolves did not become dogs overnight. They became dogs gradually, imperceptibly, each generation slightly different from the one before, the changes accumulating until the difference was unmistakable. If you could line up a wolf from the beginning of this process and a dog from the end, you would see the difference clearly. But if you compared any generation with its parents, you would see almost nothing different. Evolution works through small changes, adding up over time until something new exists that never existed before. The humans, meanwhile, were changing too, not as dramatically, not as quickly, but in ways that mattered. Humans who had dogs had advantages over humans who did not. They could hunt more effectively, guard their camps more securely, travel more safely. These advantages translated into better survival and more offspring. The humans who partnered with dogs outcompeted those who did not. This means that you, the person listening to this story, are descended from humans who lived with dogs. Your ancestors, going back thousands of generations, were dog people. The capacity to bond with dogs, to benefit from dogs, to love dogs, was selected for in your lineage. The love you feel for dogs is not a recent invention or a cultural fad. It is an inheritance, a legacy from ancestors who survived and thrived because they formed partnerships with wolves who were becoming dogs. Let me take you forward in time now, from those first uncertain beginnings to the world where dogs had become fully established partners of humanity. This is a world that existed by about 15,000 years ago, when dogs were present with human populations across much of the Northern Hemisphere, when the partnership had solidified into something that would never be broken. In this world, dogs were essential to human survival. In the Arctic, dogs pulled sleds that allowed humans to travel across frozen landscapes. Without dogs, the colonization of the high Arctic might have been impossible. The distances were too great, the conditions too harsh, for humans to carry enough supplies on their backs. But with dogs, with teams of strong animals bred for pulling, humans could move camp, follow game, traverse the vast white expanses of snow and ice. On the steppes, dogs hunted alongside humans, helping to bring down prey that fed entire communities. The partnership between human hunters and their dogs was refined over generations, each learning from the other, developing techniques and signals and strategies that maximized their combined effectiveness. A good hunting dog was treasured, cared for, passed down from parent to child as one of the most valuable possessions a family could own. In the forests, dogs tracked game, following scent trails through thick undergrowth where humans could not follow. They found wounded animals that had fled after being hit by human weapons. They held large prey at bay, circling and harassing until human hunters could arrive for the kill. Without dogs, many hunting traditions that sustained forest-dwelling peoples would have been impossible or far less productive. But dogs were not only hunters, they were also guardians, protectors of camps and villages, early warning systems against predators and enemies. A dog's bark in the night could save lives, alerting sleeping humans to dangers that might otherwise have taken them by surprise. Dogs patrolled the perimeters, challenged strangers, defended their human families against anything that threatened. And dogs were companions, sources of warmth and comfort and connection. The people of the ancient world faced hardships we can barely imagine. Cold and hunger and disease and violence, lives that were often short and frequently painful. In such lives, the presence of a loyal companion, a creature who loved without condition, who was always glad to see you, who slept beside you and followed you, and never abandoned you, such a presence was not a luxury. It was a necessity, a support that helped people endure what might otherwise have been unendurable. This is the world your dog descends from, not the world of modern pet ownership, with its commercial dog food and veterinary care and temperature-controlled homes. The world of genuine partnership, of mutual dependence, of two species surviving together because neither could survive as well alone. That world shaped what dogs are, shaped the bond between human and dog, shaped the love that flows between species. The modern world has changed many things, but it has not changed that fundamental bond. It remains, beneath all the trappings of contemporary pet ownership, the same relationship that was forged in the Ice Age. Let me tell you about the spread of dogs across the world, the way they accompanied humans into every environment where humans went. Partners in the greatest migration in the history of our species. When humans crossed from Asia into the Americas, dogs went with them. We know this from archaeology, from the remains of dogs found at the earliest human sites in the New World, from genetic evidence that traces American dogs back to Asian ancestors. The first Americans were dog people, bringing their four-legged partners into a continent where no dogs had ever existed before. When humans spread across the Pacific, hopping from island to island in voyaging canoes, dogs went with them. The dogs of Polynesia, ancestors of breeds like the Hawaiian Poi dog, travelled thousands of miles across open ocean, precious cargo that islanders valued enough to carry on their dangerous voyages. These dogs adapted to island life, to new foods and new conditions, becoming part of the distinctive cultures that developed on isolated Pacific islands. When humans pushed into the harsh environments of the far north, into the Arctic and subarctic regions of Europe and Asia and North America, dogs went with them. In these environments, dogs were not just helpful, they were essential, providing transportation and warmth and hunting assistance, without which human survival would have been far more difficult. The relationship between northern peoples and their dogs was particularly intense, forged in conditions where both depended absolutely on the other. When humans developed agriculture and settled into permanent villages, dogs were there. Their roles shifted somewhat, from hunting partners to guardians of livestock and property, but they remained essential. The dogs of agricultural societies protected sheep and goats from wolves, protected homes from intruders, disposed of waste that might otherwise have attracted vermin. They adapted to the new human lifestyle just as they had adapted to the old. Throughout this spread, dogs diversified. The dogs of the Arctic became different from the dogs of the tropics, which became different from the dogs of the mountains, which became different from the dogs of the plains. Natural selection favoured dogs who could thrive in local conditions. Human selection favoured dogs who served local needs. The result was the enormous diversity of dog types that existed in the traditional world, hundreds of land races adapted to specific environments and specific functions. This diversity is still visible today, in the breeds that descend from those ancient land races, in the physical differences between a husky and a chihuahua, a greyhound and a bulldog. These differences are not superficial. They reflect thousands of years of adaptation, generations of selection that shaped dogs for specific climates, specific tasks, specific relationships with specific human cultures. But beneath the diversity lies unity. All dogs, from the largest to the smallest, from the shaggiest to the smoothest, share the same fundamental nature. They are social, they are loyal, they bond with humans in ways that no other species can match. They look to humans for guidance, for approval, for connection. They love their humans and are loved in return. This is what it means to be a dog, and it is the same everywhere, in every breed, in every population, in every corner of the world where dogs and humans live together. Let me tell you now about the changes that came with the modern era, the transformation of dogs from working partners to beloved pets, the creation of breeds and the companion revolution that reshaped the human-dog relationship. For most of human history, dogs were valued for what they could do. A good hunting dog was prized for its nose and its stamina. A good guarding dog was prized for its alertness and its courage. A good herding dog was prized for its intelligence and its responsiveness to commands. Dogs that could not perform useful functions were not typically kept. Resources were too scarce, lives too hard to support animals that did not contribute. This began to change as human societies became wealthier and more urban. In ancient Rome, wealthy citizens kept small companion dogs that served no practical purpose, but were valued for their appealing appearance and their affectionate nature. In imperial China, tiny dogs were bred for the court, pampered creatures that had never worked a day in their lives. In medieval Europe, noble ladies kept lapdogs as fashion accessories and sources of comfort. But these were exceptions. For most people, dogs remained working animals until remarkably recently. It was only in the 19th and 20th centuries that the companion dog became the dominant form of dog ownership in wealthy countries, that the majority of dogs became pets rather than workers. The Victorian era was a turning point. This was when the modern concept of breeds emerged, when kennel clubs were founded, when dog shows became popular, when dogs began to be bred primarily for appearance rather than function. The Victorians were great classifiers, obsessed with categorizing and standardizing the natural world, and they applied this obsession to dogs with enthusiasm. They took the loose landrace types that had existed for centuries and formalized them into breeds with written standards, closed stud books, and competitive exhibitions. The creation of breeds had consequences that the Victorians did not anticipate. Closing the stud books meant that each breed became a genetically isolated population. unable to benefit from the genetic diversity that comes from crossing between groups. Over generations, this isolation led to inbreeding, to the concentration of harmful genetic variants, to the health problems that plague many purebred dogs today. The Victorians wanted to create perfect dogs, but their methods created dogs that were often far from perfect in their health and their welfare. The 20th century saw the companion revolution accelerate, as more people moved to cities, as incomes rose, as family sizes decreased. Dogs increasingly became surrogate children for their owners, creatures to be doted on and indulged, members of the family in ways that working dogs had never been. The pet industry grew to serve this new relationship, offering food and toys and accessories and services that transformed dog ownership from a partnership into a consumer category. Today, in wealthy countries, most dogs are primarily companions. They may still perform some functions, alerting to intruders, providing reasons for exercise, but their main role is to be loved and to love in return. They sleep in beds, eat gourmet food, receive medical care that would have seemed miraculous to earlier generations. They are by many measures the most pampered animals in the history of the world. This is not entirely a good thing. The companion revolution has brought problems as well as benefits. Dogs bred for extreme appearances often suffer from health issues related to those appearances. Dogs kept as companions without adequate exercise or mental stimulation often develop behavioural problems. The demand for popular breeds fuels puppy mills that prioritise profit over welfare. The impulse buying of puppies leads to abandoned dogs filling shelters beyond capacity. But the companion revolution has also brought genuine benefits for dogs. Dogs today are valued for themselves, not just for what they can do. They are protected by laws against cruelty that did not exist in earlier eras. They receive veterinary care that extends and improves their lives. They are studied by scientists who seek to understand their needs and their experiences. In many ways, dogs have never had it better than they do today in wealthy countries. The challenge for the future is to preserve what is good about the companion relationship while addressing what is harmful. This means breeding for health rather than appearance, adopting rather than buying when possible, providing dogs with the exercise and stimulation they need, understanding that dogs are not furry humans but different creatures with their own requirements and their own nature. It means honouring the ancient partnership by being good partners, by meeting our responsibilities to the species that has given us so much. Let me tell you about specific dogs now, individual animals whose stories illuminate the broader relationship between humans and dogs. These are dogs who became famous, whose names were recorded, whose lives touched something in the human imagination that resonated across time. But remember that for every famous dog there were millions of ordinary dogs, loved by their families, doing their work, living their lives, unnamed in any history but just as real. There was Peritas, the dog of Alexander the Great, who according to legend saved the conqueror's life in battle. When Alexander was attacked by enemies, Peritas leaped to his defence, fighting off the attackers until help arrived. Alexander was so devoted to this dog that he named a city after him, Peritas, somewhere in the territory he conquered. The city is lost to history, but the story remains, a testament to the bond between a world conqueror and his faithful companion. There was Greyfriars Bobby, the Skye Terrier who allegedly spent 14 years guarding his master's grave in Edinburgh, Scotland. When John Gray, a night watchman, died in 1858, his dog Bobby refused to leave the cemetery where he was buried. For the rest of his life, Bobby slept on or near the grave, fed by local residents who were moved by his devotion. When Bobby died in 1872, he was buried near his master, and a statue was erected to honour his loyalty. Some have questioned the details of the story, but its persistence says something about what humans want to believe about dogs. There was Balto, whom I mentioned earlier, the sled dog who led his team through a blizzard to deliver medicine to Nome, Alaska, during the 1925 diphtheria epidemic. Balto was not supposed to be the hero of that journey. He was not even supposed to be the lead dog. But when the designated lead dog became disoriented in the storm, Balto took over, navigating through conditions so severe that his musher could not see the dogs in front of him. Balto found the trail and followed it to Nome, saving countless lives. He became a national hero, toured the country, was eventually sold to a zoo, and was finally rescued from poor conditions by the citizens of Cleveland, who raised money to bring him to their city. When Balto died in 1933, his body was preserved and mounted, and it stands to this day in the Cleveland Museum of Natural History. There was Hachiko, the Akita who became a symbol of loyalty in Japan. Every day, Hachiko met his owner, Professor Ueno, at Shibuya Station when he returned from work. When Professor Ueno died suddenly in 1925, Hachiko continued to appear at the station every afternoon, at the time the professor's train was due, waiting for a master who would never return. He did this for almost 10 years, until his own death in 1935. The Japanese people were so moved by his faithfulness that they erected a bronze statue of Hachiko at Shibuya Station, where it stands today as a meeting point and a monument to canine devotion. There was Laika, the Soviet space dog, the first living creature to orbit the Earth. Laika was a stray, found on the streets of Moscow and selected for the space program because strays were thought to be tougher and more adaptable than pet dogs. On November 3, 1957, she was launched aboard Sputnik 2, sent into orbit with no provision for return. The Soviets initially claimed that she was euthanized painlessly before her oxygen ran out, but decades later the truth emerged. Laika died within hours of launch, probably from overheating and stress. She was a victim of the space race, a casualty of human ambition, a reminder that the human-dog relationship has not always been benevolent. There was Endel, the yellow Labrador who served as a service dog to Gulf War veteran Alan Parton. Parton had suffered a severe head injury that left him wheelchair-bound, unable to speak and unable to recognize his own family. Endel became his lifeline, performing hundreds of tasks that allowed Parton to live independently and gradually helping him reconnect with the world. In one famous incident, Endel saved Parton's life after he was knocked from his wheelchair by a hit-and-run driver in a parking lot. Endel pulled a blanket over his unconscious handler, retrieved his mobile phone, went to a nearby hotel to summon help, and stayed by Parton's side until assistance arrived. Endel became the most decorated dog in the world, receiving awards from organizations around the globe, and when he died in 2009, the news made international headlines. These famous dogs represent something about what dogs mean to us, our idealization of loyalty and service and devotion, our need to believe that such qualities exist in pure form somewhere in the world. But the ordinary dogs, the dogs who never made the news, the dogs who simply lived and loved and died in obscurity, these dogs matter too. They matter to the people who loved them. They matter to the story of the human-dog relationship. They matter because they were beings with experiences, with lives that were real to them, even if unknown to history. Think about all the dogs who have ever lived, millions upon millions of animals stretching back thousands of generations to those first wolves who approached human fires. Each one was an individual. Each one had experiences, moments of joy and fear and contentment and longing. Each one was real as any famous dog, as real as your own dog if you have one. Most of them have been forgotten, their names lost, their lives unrecorded. But they existed. They lived. And their lives were part of the great story of dogs and humans together. Let me turn now to the experience of owning a dog, to the reality of what it means to share your life with one of these creatures. Because the history and the science and the famous stories are all very well, but what really matters is the daily experience, the morning walks and the evening cuddles, the frustrations and the joys, the profound connection that develops between a human and a dog over time. Getting a dog changes your life. This is not always acknowledged in the enthusiasm of bringing home a puppy, but it is true. A dog needs to be fed, every day, without fail. A dog needs to be walked, in rain and snow and heat, whether you feel like it or not. A dog needs veterinary care, which can be expensive and time-consuming. A dog needs attention, training, socialization, supervision. A dog limits your freedom to travel, to work late, to be spontaneous. A dog is a commitment, and not everyone is ready for that commitment. But in return, a dog gives you things that nothing else can give. A dog gives you unconditional love, a love that does not depend on your success or your appearance or your social status. A dog gives you a reason to get outside, to exercise, to pay attention to the world around you. A dog gives you a companion who is always glad to see you, who never judges you, who is there when you need someone to be there. A dog gives you responsibility, purpose, a reason to get out of bed in the morning even when nothing else seems worth the effort. The daily routines of dog ownership become the structure of your life. The morning walk, when the world is quiet and the dog is energetic, when you have time to think while your feet move automatically along familiar paths. The feeding ritual, the excitement of mealtime, the way a dog can make an ordinary can of food seem like the greatest gift in the world. The evening settling, when the day's activities wind down and the dog curls up near you, a warm presence in the quiet hours. These routines are simple, but they are not trivial. They are the thread that connects your days, the rhythm that gives shape to your time. Dogs change how you see the world. When you walk with a dog, you notice things you would not notice alone. The squirrel that your dog spots before you do. The interesting smell that requires careful investigation. The other dogs and their owners. The community of dog people that exists in every neighborhood. You become more aware of weather, of seasons, of the natural cycles that city living tends to obscure. You become more present, more attentive, more connected to the physical world around you. Dogs change how you see yourself. Caring for another being, being responsible for another life, this changes you. It makes you more patient, or reveals how impatient you can be. It makes you more consistent, or exposes your inconsistency. It shows you your capacity for love and your limitations in expressing it. A dog is a mirror that reflects your character, for better and for worse. What you see in that mirror can be uncomfortable, but it can also be the beginning of growth. Dogs change your relationships with other people. Dog owners share something, a common experience that creates connection across differences of age and background and circumstance. The conversations that happen on dog walks, the friendships that form around shared dog ownership, the community that develops among people who frequent the same park or trail, these are real social connections, sometimes the most meaningful social connections in a person's life. Dogs are social bridges, linking people who might otherwise never meet, creating opportunities for interaction that would not exist without them. And dogs change how you face difficulty. When life is hard, when you're sad or scared or overwhelmed, a dog is there. Not with advice, not with solutions, but with presence. A dog who presses against you when you're crying, who rests their head on your lap when you are stressed, who seems to know that something is wrong and simply stays close. This is a kind of support that is hard to find elsewhere. Dogs do not fix problems, but they help you endure them. They remind you that you're not alone, that you matter to someone, that getting through the next hour is possible. This is the reality of living with a dog. Not just the cute pictures and the heartwarming stories, but the daily grind and the daily grace, the frustrations and the rewards, the ongoing relationship that develops over years of shared life. It is not always easy, it is not always pleasant. But for those who are suited to it, for those who can meet its demands, it is one of the most valuable relationships a person can have. Let me speak now about the end of that relationship, about the loss that awaits every dog owner who loves their dog and outlives it. This is the hardest part of dog ownership, the part that people do not like to think about, but that is inseparable from the rest. Loving a dog means eventually losing that dog. The grief that comes with that loss is real and profound and deserves to be taken seriously. Dogs live shorter lives than humans. This is simply a fact of biology, the difference in metabolism and aging between the two species. A dog that lives 15 years has lived a full life, has experienced all the stages of canine existence from playful puppy to dignified elder. But 15 years is not very long from a human perspective. It is a chapter in a human life, not the whole story. And when that chapter ends, the loss can feel overwhelming. The grief of losing a dog is often underestimated by those who have not experienced it. It is just a dog, people may say, as if the word just somehow diminishes the relationship. But for those who have loved a dog deeply, there is no just about it. The dog was a companion, a friend, a family member. The dog was present for years of life through changes and challenges, a constant in a world of inconstancy. The loss of that presence leaves a hole that cannot be easily filled. The grief of losing a dog is also complicated. Unlike the death of a human, the death of a dog is often a choice, a decision to euthanize when quality of life has declined beyond recovery. This decision, made out of love, made to prevent suffering, can nonetheless feel like a betrayal. You may wonder if you acted too soon or too late. You may replay the final moments, questioning your choices, wishing you had done something differently. This is normal. It is part of the grief. But it does not mean you did anything wrong. Making the decision to end a beloved animal's suffering is one of the most loving things a person can do. Allow yourself to grieve. Do not be ashamed of your tears. Do not let anyone tell you that your grief is excessive or inappropriate. You loved someone, that someone died. Grief is the natural and proper response to love and loss. It may take longer than you expect. It may surprise you with its intensity. It may recede and then return when you least expect it. All of this is normal. All of this is part of loving a dog. In time, the acute grief will fade. You will be able to remember your dog with joy as well as sadness. You will be able to tell stories without breaking down. You will be able to look at photos and smile at the memories. The love does not go away. It transforms into something you carry with you, a part of who you are, an influence that persists even when the dog is gone. And when you are ready, if you are the kind of person who needs a dog in your life, you may open your heart again. Not to replace the dog you lost, because no dog can replace another, but to love again, to form a new relationship that will be its own thing, different from what came before but equally valuable. The capacity to love is not diminished by loss. It may even be expanded, deepened by the understanding of what love means and what it costs. Let me bring this long story toward its close now, weaving together the threads we have followed throughout the night. The wolf that became your best friend, the Ice Age beginnings, the transformation through domestication, the spread across the world, the creation of breeds, the companion revolution, the daily reality of life with dogs, the grief of loss. All of these are parts of one story, the story of how two species found each other and created something beautiful. You are part of this story. If you have a dog, you're living the story right now, adding your chapter to the long narrative of human-dog partnership. If you have loved dogs in the past, those dogs are part of your story, their influence persisting in who you are today. If you may have a dog in your future, the story awaits you, ready to unfold in ways you cannot predict. The bond between humans and dogs is not an accident. It is not a trivial fact about modern life. It is one of the oldest and deepest relationships in human existence. A partnership that has shaped both species, that has contributed to human success, that has enriched human lives in ways beyond counting. This bond exists because of who we are, as humans and as dogs, because of the compatibility that was discovered so long ago in the Ice Age darkness. Your capacity to love a dog, to bond with a dog, to be moved by a dog's devotion, this capacity is part of your heritage as a human being. Your ancestors loved dogs. They lived with dogs, worked with dogs, buried dogs with ceremony and care. The ability to form these bonds was selected for over generations. It is written in your genes, in your brain, in the hormones that surge when you gaze into your dog's eyes. Loving dogs is not a weakness or an eccentricity. It is part of being human, and the dog's capacity to love you, to bond with you, to give you that devotion that seems so complete and so unconditional, this too is part of a heritage. The wolves who became dogs were selected for this capacity. They evolved to love humans, to need humans, to find their deepest satisfaction in the company of humans. When your dog looks at you with what seems like love, it is not your imagination. It is the expression of thousands of generations of selection for exactly this. The ability to bond across the species barrier, the ability to love you. This mutual love, this two-way bond, this is the heart of the story. Not the usefulness of dogs for hunting or guarding, not the convenience of dogs as companions, but the love itself. The love is what made domestication happen. The love is what has kept humans and dogs together through all the changes of history. The love is what matters, finally, more than anything else. The night is deep now and sleep is calling. Let me speak a little longer about the wonder of this relationship, about what it means that two such different species could find each other and create something so beautiful. Consider what had to happen for your dog to exist. Consider the chain of events stretching back through time, the generations upon generations of dogs and wolves, the countless matings and births and deaths, the survival of some lineages and the extinction of others. Consider the Ice Age beginnings, the first wolves who dared approach human fires, the first humans who did not drive them away. Consider the thousands of years of partnership, the slow transformation from wolf to dog, the spread across continents and climates and cultures. Consider all the dogs who lived and died to produce the lineage that led to your dog. The odds against any particular dog existing are astronomical, and yet your dog exists. Your dog is here, breathing, dreaming, being. That is remarkable, that is worth appreciating, worth Consider too what had to happen for you to exist. The chain of your ancestors stretching back through time, the survivors of plagues and wars and famines, the lovers who found each other and produced children who survived to produce more children. And somewhere in that chain, probably many times over, there were dogs. Your ancestors lived with dogs. They benefited from dogs. The presence of dogs may have been part of what allowed some of your ancestors to survive when others did not. You and your dog are connected not just in this present moment, but through history, through the long partnership that shaped both species. The relationship you have with your dog is your own, unique and particular, unlike any other relationship between any other human and any other dog. But it is also part of something larger, part of a pattern that has been repeated billions of times, part of a tradition older than civilization. When you pet your dog, when you walk together, when you simply sit in the same room, you are participating in one of the oldest human activities, something that humans have been doing since before they were fully human. There is nothing new about loving a dog. There is nothing strange or excessive about it. It is one of the most natural things in the world. Let me tell you more about what dogs experience, about the inner life of the creature who shares your home. We cannot know with certainty what a dog thinks or feels, but we can make informed guesses based on behavior and biology and what we know about the brain systems that generate consciousness and emotion. Dogs experience the world differently than humans do. Their world is built primarily on smell, that extraordinary olfactory sense that detects things we cannot imagine. When your dog sniffs the air, it is reading information about the world that is simply invisible to you. Where you see a tree, your dog smells a tree, plus the history of every dog who has urinated on that tree, plus the squirrel that climbed it this morning, plus the bird that landed on its branches, plus countless other traces that tell a story you cannot access. Your dog's world is richer than yours in some ways, more limited in others. It is a different way of being in the world, a different set of possibilities and concerns. Dogs experience time differently than humans do. We cannot know exactly how dogs perceive time, but studies suggest that dogs live more in the moment than humans do, less troubled by thoughts of past and future, more fully present in the here and now. This does not mean dogs have no memory. They clearly remember people and places and experiences. But they may not ruminate on the past or worry about the future the way humans do. This presentness is part of what makes dogs good companions. They are fully with you right now, not distracted by regrets or anxieties. Dogs experience emotions that seem similar to human emotions, though we cannot be certain they feel exactly what we feel. When a dog wags its tail at your approach, it seems to be experiencing something like joy. When a dog cowers at a loud noise, it seems to be experiencing something like fear. When a dog presses against you when you are sad, it seems to be responding to your emotional state, perhaps experiencing something like empathy. These apparent emotions are consistent with what we know about the brain structures that generate emotions, structures that dogs share with humans. It is reasonable to believe that dogs have emotional lives, that they are not merely biological machines responding automatically to stimuli, but beings who feel something about their experiences. Dogs dream. This is one of the clearest windows into canine inner life. When your dog sleeps, you can often see the twitching paws, the muffled barks, the eye movements that indicate dreaming. Scientists believe that dogs, like humans, replay their daily experiences during sleep, consolidating memories, processing what has happened to them. When your dog dreams, it may be dreaming of the walk you took together, the squirrel it chased, the treats it received. It may be dreaming of you. There is something touching about that thought. The idea that your dog's sleeping mind turns to you, that you appear in their dreams as they appear in yours. Dogs suffer when they are hurt or sick or abandoned. This is important to acknowledge because it creates responsibilities. An animal that can suffer deserves not to suffer unnecessarily. This means providing adequate food and water, shelter and veterinary care. It means not leaving dogs alone for excessive periods, not subjecting them to conditions that cause distress, not treating them cruelly. The recognition that dogs can suffer is the foundation of animal welfare ethics, the reason we have laws against cruelty, the basis for the obligations we have to the animals we bring into our lives. But dogs also experience joy and satisfaction and contentment. A dog with its basic needs met, with companionship and exercise and stimulation, can live a good life, a life that is good for the dog and not just useful to humans. This possibility of a good life is part of what makes dogs worth caring about. They are not just tools or possessions. They are beings capable of well-being, beings whose flourishing matters for its own sake. Let me tell you about the different ways dogs come into human lives today, the various paths by which the partnership begins. Some dogs come from breeders, people who intentionally mate dogs to produce puppies with specific characteristics. Good breeders are knowledgeable about genetics and health, careful about temperament, committed to producing dogs who will be healthy and happy. They screen their breeding dogs for genetic diseases, socialize their puppies thoroughly, provide support to buyers throughout the dog's life. But not all breeders are good breeders. Some prioritize profit over welfare, breed dogs with known health problems, keep animals in inadequate conditions, sell puppies too young. The puppy mill industry exists alongside responsible breeding, producing dogs whose lives begin in suffering. Some dogs come from shelters and rescues, organizations that take in homeless dogs and try to find them new homes. These dogs come from many backgrounds, some surrendered by owners who could not keep them, some found stray, some seized from abusive situations. Adopting from a shelter saves a life and makes room for another dog in need. It is often less expensive than buying from a breeder. But shelter dogs may have unknown histories, behavioral issues from past trauma, health problems that are not immediately apparent. Adopting a shelter dog requires patience and flexibility, a willingness to work through challenges that may arise. Some dogs come through informal channels, puppies from a friend's dog, dogs that need rehoming due to family circumstances, strays who appear and are taken in. These paths to dog ownership are less formal, but no less valid. The relationship that develops does not depend on how the dog was acquired. However a dog comes into your life, what matters is what happens next. The relationship begins with bringing the dog home, but it develops over time, deepened by daily care and shared experiences, tested by challenges, strengthened by the overcoming of those challenges. A dog is not just an acquisition but a commitment, not just a pet but a relationship that will unfold over years. The early days with a new dog are often the hardest. A puppy needs to be house-trained, taught basic manners, socialized to the world. An adult dog from a shelter needs time to adjust, to learn the routines of the new home, to trust the new people. There are frustrations, accidents, moments when you wonder what you've gotten yourself into. This is normal. It is part of the process. Push through the early difficulties and a relationship awaits that is worth the trouble. Training is central to the developing relationship. A well-trained dog is a pleasure to live with, responsive to commands, reliable in public, safe around children and other animals. A poorly trained dog can be a burden, pulling on the leash, jumping on visitors, ignoring commands, creating stress rather than reducing it. Training is not about domination or control. It is about communication, about creating a shared language that allows human and dog to understand each other. It is about setting the dog up for success, making clear what is expected, rewarding the behaviors you want to see. Modern training methods emphasize positive reinforcement, rewarding good behavior rather than punishing bad behavior. This approach is more effective and more humane than older methods based on dominance and correction. Dogs trained with positive methods are eager to learn, confident in their relationship with their handlers, happy in their work. Dogs trained with harsh methods may comply, but they often show signs of stress and fear. Their obedience based on anxiety rather than enthusiasm. Training is also a bonding activity. The time spent teaching your dog, the communication that develops through the training process, the mutual understanding that grows, all of this strengthens the relationship between human and dog. A dog who has been trained well knows that its human is a source of guidance and reward, someone to look to when uncertain, someone to trust. This trust is the foundation of everything that follows. As the months and years pass, the relationship deepens. You learn your dog's quirks and preferences, the things that excite and the things that frighten, the ways your dog communicates its needs. Your dog learns you in return, your moods and routines, the sounds that signal good things and bad things, the subtle cues that you may not even know you are giving. This mutual knowledge, developed over time, is the substance of the relationship, the accumulated understanding that makes long-term bonds so much richer than new ones. There are milestones along the way. The first time your dog comes reliably when called, the first road trip together, the first time your dog comforts you when you are sad without being asked. the first time you realize that you cannot imagine your life without this creature. These milestones may not be dramatic, may not even be noticed when they happen, but they mark the progress of a relationship that is becoming deeper and more meaningful. And then, inevitably, there are the changes that come with time. Your dog grows older, the muzzle greys, the steps become slower, the hearing or vision may fade. The exuberant puppy becomes the dignified elder, less interested in running and playing, more interested in comfort and closeness. This transition can be painful to watch, the decline of a beloved companion, the foreshadowing of loss to come. But it is also beautiful in its way, the long relationship reaching its final stage, the bond that began so many years ago, now tested by time and found enduring. The care of an aging dog requires adjustments, softer beds for joints that ache, ramps to replace stairs that have become too difficult, shorter walks, more rest, veterinary attention to the conditions of age, patience with the changes that age brings, the confusion, the incontinence, the neediness. This care is a responsibility, but it is also an honor. Your dog gave you years of devotion. Now you give back caring for your dog as your dog once cared for you, being present through the hard times as your dog was present through yours. The end, when it comes, is the end of a chapter, but not the end of the story. The story continues in your memory, in the influence your dog had on your life, in the lessons you learned, in the capacity for love that was expanded by the relationship. Your dog is gone, but your dog was here. That matters. That means something. That is part of who you are now and who you will be going forward. And the story continues in other dogs. The dogs who are being born right now, the dogs who are waiting in shelters for someone to adopt them, the dogs who will come into your life in the future if you are open to receiving them. The partnership between humans and dogs does not end. It continues, renewed in every new bond, carrying forward the ancient relationship into whatever future awaits. Sleep now, friend of dogs. Sleep with all of this in your heart. The history and the science, the individual stories and the universal patterns, the love that began so long ago and continues still. Sleep, knowing that you are part of something beautiful, something that connects you to the past and to the future, something that makes you more fully human even as it connects you to an animal who is not human at all. The fire that burned in the Ice Age, the fire that first drew wolves to human camps, that fire still burns. It burns in your heart when you love a dog. It burns in your dog's heart when your dog loves you. It has burned continuously for thousands of years, passed from generation to generation, human to human and dog to dog, a flame that has never gone out. You carry that flame. Guard it well. Let it warm you through the night. And when you wake, carry it forward into another day, another chapter of the oldest and most beautiful partnership between species that the world has ever known. The wolf became your best friend. The wolf is still your best friend. The wolf will always be your best friend, as long as there are humans and dogs in the world, as long as the fire keeps burning, as long as love finds its way across the barrier between species. Sleep well, keeper of the ancient bond. Sleep well, friend of dogs. Sleep well, beloved of wolves. Good night. But wait, stay with me just a little longer. Let me tell you one more thing before you drift away completely into dreams. Let me tell you about the inheritance that runs through both you and your dog, the legacy of all those generations of partnership, the gifts that have been passed down through time. Your dog inherited many things from the wolves who became dogs. It inherited the social nature, the need for companionship, the ability to form deep bonds. It inherited the communication skills, the body language and vocalizations that allow dogs to express themselves and understand others. It inherited the hunting instincts, now mostly redirected into play and chase games, the prey drive that makes a bull so fascinating. It inherited the territorial instincts, the impulse to guard the home, to bark at strangers, to protect the pack. All of these are wolf inheritances, gifts from ancestors who ran wild across Ice Age steppes, who hunted mammoths and avoided cave lions, who survived in a world more dangerous than we can imagine. But your dog also inherited something that wolves do not have, something that developed specifically through the domestication process. Your dog inherited the ability to love humans, not just to tolerate humans, not just to benefit from association with humans, but to genuinely love them, to need them, to find its deepest satisfaction in human companionship. This capacity for cross-species love was selected over thousands of generations, The dogs who loved humans most intensely were cared for most attentively, reproduced most successfully, passed their genes to future generations. Your dog's love for you is not just behavior. It is biology, encoded in genes and expressed in the brain systems that generate emotion and attachment. And you inherited things too. You inherited the capacity to bond with dogs, the ability to read their body language, the tendency to find their faces appealing, the hormonal responses that make gazing into a dog's eyes feel so good. These capacities were selected in your ancestors. The humans who bonded best with dogs, who benefited most from the partnership, who cared most effectively for their canine companions, these humans thrived. Your ability to love dogs is not a personal quirk. It is a species-wide trait, the result of thousands of years of coevolution. You and your dog are thus products of the same history, shaped by the same partnership, inheritors of the same legacy. When you look at each other, you're looking across the species barrier, yes, but you're also looking at someone whose lineage is intertwined with yours, whose ancestors knew your ancestors, whose existence is connected to yours in ways that go deeper than you might realize. This connection is precious. It is one of the wonders of existence, the unlikely meeting of two species that should have been enemies, that became instead the closest of friends. Do not take it for granted. Do not treat it as ordinary or unremarkable. It is extraordinary. It is the result of events that could easily have gone differently, of choices made by wolves and humans long ago that opened a door to something new. Every time you interact with your dog, you're participating in this wonder. Every walk is a continuation of journeys that began in the Ice Age. Every game of fetch is an echo of hunts that sustained our ancestors. Every quiet evening together is a renewal of the companionship that has comforted humans and dogs through all the difficulties of existence. You're not just a person with a pet. You are a participant in one of the great partnerships of life on Earth. Let me speak now about what dogs give us that we cannot get anywhere else. Because the practical benefits of dogs, the hunting and guarding and herding, these have become less important for most people. Most dogs today do not work in any traditional sense. They are companions, pure and simple, and yet we keep them, love them, value them. What are we getting from them that justifies the effort and expense? We're getting love, unconditional, non-judgmental, reliable love. A dog does not care if you are successful or unsuccessful, attractive or unattractive, popular or lonely. A dog loves you because you are its person, because you are there, because you are part of its world. This love is offered freely and cannot be earned or lost through performance. It simply is, a constant in a world where everything else seems conditional and uncertain. We are getting presence. Dogs live in the moment in ways that humans find difficult. When you are with your dog, you're pulled into that presence, drawn out of your thoughts and into the here and now. The walk you take with your dog is not just transportation from one place to another. It is an experience, a time of attention and awareness, a break from the mental noise that fills so much of modern life. Dogs ground us. They remind us that the present moment is the only moment we ever actually have. We are getting connection. In a world that can feel increasingly isolated and fragmented, dogs provide reliable connection. They are there when we come home. They are glad to see us. They want to be near us. This connection may be simple compared to human connection, but its simplicity is part of its value. Dog connection is uncomplicated by the misunderstandings and resentments that can make human connection so difficult. It is pure connection, unmediated, direct. We are getting purpose. Having a dog means having responsibilities, obligations that cannot be ignored. The dog must be fed. The dog must be walked. The dog must be cared for. These responsibilities give structure to days that might otherwise feel empty, provide reasons to get up and function when depression or despair might otherwise keep us in bed. Dogs need us. That need sometimes is what keeps us going. We are getting joy. The joy of a dog greeting its returning owner is contagious. The enthusiasm of a dog invited for a walk is infectious. The contentment of a dog sleeping peacefully nearby is calming. Dogs bring joy into our lives through their own joy, their pleasure in simple things, their ability to find happiness in the ordinary. This joy is a gift, offered daily, available to anyone who has eyes to see it. We are getting teaching. Dogs teach us patience when we want to hurry. Dogs teach us forgiveness when we want to hold grudges. Dogs teach us loyalty when we are tempted to abandon our commitments. Dogs teach us presence when we are lost in thoughts of past and future. Dogs teach us love when we have forgotten what love feels like. These lessons are not spoken but demonstrated, embodied in the way dogs live, available to anyone willing to pay attention, and we are getting practice for death. Dogs live shorter lives than humans. Loving a dog means facing loss, usually multiple times over the course of a human life. This is painful, but it is also valuable. Learning to love something mortal, learning to grieve, learning to continue after loss. These are skills that we need for our own mortality and for the mortality of the humans we love. Dogs give us practice in loving and losing, preparing us in some small way for the larger losses that life inevitably brings. All of this, and more, is what dogs give us. It is worth far more than the cost of food and veterinary care. It is, for many people, among the most valuable things in their lives. This is why humans have kept dogs through all the changes of history, why we keep them still even though we no longer need them for hunting or herding, why we will probably keep them as long as our species exists. Dogs give us things we need, things we cannot easily get elsewhere, things that make life better in ways that are hard to quantify but impossible to deny. The hour is late now, very late, and sleep has been waiting patiently for you to arrive. Let me bring this story to its final close. Let me speak the last words before you drift away into dreams. You have travelled far tonight. You have journeyed back to the Ice Age, to the frozen steppes where wolves first approached human fires. You have watched the transformation of wolf into dog, the slow evolution that created a new kind of creature, an animal designed by nature and by humans to be our partner. You have followed dogs as they spread across the world, accompanying humans into every environment, adapting to every condition. You have considered the depth of the bond, the science and the emotion, the history and the personal experience. You have thought about loss and about continuation, about what dogs give us and what we owe them in return. Now rest. Let all of this settle into your mind, becoming part of how you understand dogs and yourself and the relationship between species. Let the knowledge comfort you, the awareness that you are part of something ancient and ongoing, that your love for dogs connects you to humans stretching back thousands of years, that the bond you feel is real and deep and rooted in the very nature of both species. If you have a dog sleeping near you, feel the comfort of that presence. Another heartbeat in the darkness, another breath in the quiet room, another life intertwined with yours. That dog is the living heir of wolves who changed everything by approaching human fires all those ages ago. That dog loves you in a way that was designed by evolution, refined by selection, expressed through biochemistry and behavior. That love is real. It is one of the truest things in your life. Receive it. Return it. Be grateful for it. And if you do not have a dog, but you have loved dogs in the past, let those memories warm you tonight. The dogs you have loved are gone, but they are not entirely lost. They live in your memory, in the influence they had on your life, in the person you became through knowing them. Carry them with you. They would want you to be happy. They would want you to sleep well. And if there is a dog in your future, a dog you will meet, but have not yet met, know that it is waiting for you somewhere, in a shelter, or a breeder's home or a friend's house, waiting for the moment when your paths will cross, and a new chapter will begin. The partnership continues. It will continue as long as there are humans and dogs in the world. Your part in that partnership may be just beginning, or it may be in a quiet phase between dogs, but it is part of the larger story either way. Sleep now. Sleep with the blessing of all the dogs who have ever loved humans. Sleep with the blessing of all the humans who have ever loved dogs. Sleep knowing that you belong to something larger than yourself, something beautiful, something that has made the world better for thousands of years. The wolf that became your best friend is watching over you now, not in physical form perhaps, but in the love that persists beyond death, in the memory that carries forward, in the bond that transcends the barrier between species and perhaps even the barrier between life and death. That wolf, that first wolf who dared to approach the fire, is still with us. It is in every dog, in every human who loves dogs, in the partnership that continues to unfold. Rest now in that partnership. Rest in the ancient bond. Rest in the love that has been passed down through 1,000 generations, that holds you now, that will hold you always. The wolf became your best friend, and best friends are forever. Good night, friend of dogs. Good night, keeper of the ancient bond. Good night, beloved of wolves. Good night. But before you go, let me tell you one last story. Let me tell you about a moment that never happened in any specific place, but has happened countless times, in every era and every land where humans and dogs have lived together. A child sits by a fire. The night is cold, and the world beyond the firelight is full of dangers the child can barely understand. There are sounds in the darkness, sounds that might be wind or might be something else, something with teeth and claws and hunger. The child is small, and the world is vast, and there is so much that is unknown. But the child is not afraid, not really, because there, beside the child, lies a dog. The dog is not asleep, not entirely. One ear flickers at the sounds in the darkness, one eye opens occasionally to scan the perimeter. The dog is keeping watch, as dogs have always kept watch, guarding the young while they rest, alert to dangers that human senses might miss. The child reaches out and touches the dog's fur. The warmth is comforting, the solidity is reassuring. The dog shifts slightly, pressing closer to the child, offering its body heat, offering its presence, offering its protection. The child's hand rests on the dog's side, feeling the slow rise and fall of breathing, the heartbeat beneath the fur. In this moment, the bond between human and dog is present in its purest form. No words are needed, no explanation is necessary. There is just the child and the dog, the warmth and the darkness, the trust and the protection. The child knows, in a way that goes deeper than thought, that the dog is a friend. The dog knows, in whatever way dogs know things, that the child belongs to its pack, to be guarded and cared for. This moment has happened for 30,000 years or more. It happened in Ice Age caves, in Neolithic villages, in medieval halls, in frontier cabins, in modern apartments. It is happening right now, somewhere in the world, a child and a dog sharing warmth and trust in the darkness. It will happen tomorrow night and every night for as long as there are children and dogs in the world. This is the heart of it. This is what all the history and science and philosophy comes down to. A child and a dog, together in the darkness, each making the other's life a little better, a little safer, a little less alone. The bond is simple and it is profound. It has persisted through every change that human civilization has undergone. It will persist probably until the end. You were once that child. Even if you do not remember it, even if the specific dog is forgotten, you were once small and vulnerable and comforted by the presence of a dog. Or if not you specifically, then your ancestors, the line of parents and grandparents stretching back through time. Somewhere in that line, many times over, there was a child by a fire and a dog keeping watch. You carry the memory of that in your genes, in your capacity to bond with dogs, in the comfort you feel in canine presence. And if you have children, or if you ever have children, they may experience this too. A child of yours or a child of your children, sitting in the darkness with a dog, feeling the warmth and the trust, participating in the ancient partnership. The story continues. It continues through you, through the choices you make, through the dogs you bring into your life or the life of your family. This is your inheritance and your responsibility. You inherited the capacity to bond with dogs from ancestors who depended on that bond for survival. You have the responsibility to honor that inheritance, to be a good partner to the dogs who come into your life, to pass the bond on to the next generation. The partnership between humans and dogs does not maintain itself. It is maintained by individuals, by people who choose to love dogs and to care for them properly. Choose to be one of those people. If you already have a dog, recommit tonight to being the best partner you can be. If you do not have a dog but might someday, resolve to make that relationship a good one when it comes. If your dog-loving days are behind you for whatever reason, honor the memory of the dogs you have loved by supporting the bond in others. Every person who loves dogs well strengthens the partnership. Every person who mistreats dogs weakens it. Be someone who strengthens it. The night is truly ending now, and sleep will wait no longer. Let me leave you with this final thought, this final image to carry into your dreams. Imagine all the dogs who are sleeping right now, all around the world. Dogs in houses and apartments, dogs in kennels and farms, dogs on streets and in shelters. Millions upon millions of dogs, each one dreaming its dog dreams, each one carrying in its genes the legacy of wolves who became something new. Some of these dogs are happy and loved, some are suffering, but all of them are dogs, all of them are heirs to the partnership, All of them are connected to you through the shared history that made dogs what they are. And imagine all the humans who are sleeping beside dogs right now, who are reaching out in the darkness to touch a furry body, who are comforted by the presence of a creature who loves them. These humans are your kin in the deepest sense, members of the ancient community of dog lovers, participants in the partnership that has shaped our species. You are not alone. You are never alone. You are part of a community that spans continents and millennia, that includes every person who has ever loved a dog, that will include every person who ever will. This community has no formal membership, no meetings, no dues. Its only requirement is love, love for dogs, love that crosses the barrier between species, love that has been practiced and refined for 30,000 years. Welcome to the community. Sleep well tonight within its embrace. And when you wake, carry its love forward into another day. The wolf became your best friend. The wolf is with you now. The wolf will always be with you. Good night. And one more thing, one more small thing, before you go completely. Remember this. Your dog does not know that it is descended from wolves. Your dog does not know about the Ice Age or domestication or the thousands of years of partnership that made it what it is. Your dog knows only this moment, only you, only the life it is living right now. For your dog, there is no grand history, no evolution, no science. There is only love, given and received, felt and expressed. That simplicity is beautiful. That simplicity is part of what dogs offer us, a freedom from the weight of history and analysis, a return to what matters most. Your dog loves you not because of what you represent or what you can provide, but because you are there, because you are its person. That love is pure in a way that human love rarely achieves. It is a gift. Receive the gift. Tomorrow when you see your dog, receive the gift again. Every day, for as long as your dog lives, receive the gift. And when your dog is gone, remember the gift, the pure and simple love that was offered to you without condition, without reservation, without end. This is what dogs give us. This is why the partnership has lasted. This is why it will continue. Sleep now, sleep well, sleep with love. Good night.